Welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. It's our 2021 review, as is tradition. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. Joining me, as he always does, is the esports historian, Duncan Thorne-Shields. And there was meant to be more of us, but don't worry, we've gone out and got our favourite. We're reliving the E-League desk, reliving the E-League green room just before we go live. You can see Moses has got his little burnt spoon and his work's just out of shot. His little Normo joining us. I'm saying he needs heroin, Duncan, to get through the show. That's what, just in case you're wondering what was going on there. No, we've all been dropping like flies. There was meant to be more of us, Jace. Anders was meant to be here, but he's under the weather. Yanko said, fuck you, I'd rather go out and have fun. So in the end, it'll just be us carrying the broadcast, very much like E-League.
And for some reason, I thought coming back and getting my E-League PTSD would be a fun evening for a Thursday night.
Yeah,
so I'm excited.
Listen, what else are you doing on a Thursday night, Moses? Let's be fucking real. Look at you as well. Like, look at the domestic bliss you've built up in the background.
You like this?
Yeah,
I got some plants. I got a new succulent, Richard.
Well, yeah, that's good. That's good.
You can't kill those. You have to
the
try.
craziest thing is this. Do you remember, right? This what people always forget chronologically, right? Is that when I did that famous shack burn when we were at, what was it called? What was the name of the actual event?
That was when we were on the Vegas Roadshow.
But it wasn't E3 though, right? What was the name of the tournament?
CES.
Right. So when we were at CES, that was, if you remember, the LAN qualifier for the last spot. It's actually how Optic, funnily enough, in one season 2, got into E-League, if you remember. They played against basically, I think it was Kingwin, the like Polish guys. And they played that show match, right? That was, people forget, that was before E-League. Well, people don't realise. Dude, that would be, I think that the 6-year anniversary of that is in like days from now or something. It was in early January, if you remember. I think it might even have been like in tomorrow or today or something, yeah.
CES is the start of every year in Vegas. I don't know what's been going on with obviously with COVID restrictions and stuff, but I imagine it'll still be going ahead.
That means we were doing E-League almost 5+ years ago now. That's
we're all
fucking.
I know. It's gone now. Dead now, of course.
Not to change the subject, but at this year's CES, there was a car that could change colors as it moved. I watched it go. Yeah.
Joke is, that's probably what Elon Musk's doing with all of you fucking plebs that are buying his dog shit cars. Probably. Instead of making it so it doesn't kill you while you're on the road, he's just made it so that it's like in CS. Here's a boomer reference for you, Moses. It's like in CS 1.6 when you make it so that your crosshair, every time you press a key, it changes the color, so you get all the little rainbow colors on the things. Although obviously rainbows meant something different back then. It was actually about a promise that God made to human. No, whatever. 2 Bible stories with Thorin and Moses. You sure?
Yeah, that's exactly what we want for the end of the year review. Favorite Bible stories. So what's your favorite parable, Moses?
If I could pick anyone in this world to read me the Bible, I would pick Duncan over Morgan Freeman.
I'm amazed. He's so narcissistic. I'm amazed he hasn't released an audiobook version of it. Thorin reads the Bible now on Audible. That thing is, people would fucking buy that.
Well, they would, for
people
sure.
are morons, you know what I mean? So
the joke is, if we actually did editorialize, they'd definitely buy it. If I had a thing where I read a Bible verse, no, and that's the point. And I go, now you have to understand, God's had a fucking mad one here. He's going to fucking start wrecking fun soon. You got people would definitely buy that. I'll tell you right now, it'd be sick.
That would be good, to be fair. Now, listen, I think God made a mistake.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, perfect. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So look, the premise of the show is that it's the end of the year in review. So we're not doing our usual rundown of all of the news and all of the current events and all of the talking points. And, Sam's gone and got all the awards we do every year. Now, I will just say there was a big story that we didn't cover on last week's episode. So I think for this, just to ease us in to the conversation, we'll just bring this up because I'd love to get Moses' perspective on it. Perfect. And that is that EG, we talked about it earlier today, Duncan, so... Right. EG obviously rebuilding a roster. They're spending, money, and Stewie's left Liquid. He's going to be the new EG IGL, and they were in talks to maybe get Valder from OG, and everyone was pretty excited because Breezy, Cirque, Stewie, Valder, automatic. Because I'm guessing Stewie wants to bring him back, for whatever reason. But then it turns out the Valder deal has fallen through because Nex has come in for Alexi B, and I guess they don't want to lose too many players to ensure their continuity over there. And now we've got Rush going. Rush instead of Valder. So I'll start with you on this, Jason, this news story. the new look EG roster, since as you are, first of all, you vitriolically hate Team Liquid now, and obviously, just making that up, but yeah, why not? And you vitriolically hate Team Liquid now, and you are a massive NA fanboy. What do you think of this EG roster?
I mean, I think they're going to be. I mean, with Breeze, Stewie, and Cirque, I think you're automatically going to be at like a certain point in the rankings. So, I mean, I think in terms of like their ability, I think they're going to be okay. The problem is, I think more than anything else, this is not a team that's getting younger. And all across Counterstrike, what we're seeing right now is teams going out and grabbing young talent, bringing up the young bloods, and getting those guys involved, helping kind of create like a new. Just getting new perspectives in there from the old guard. And what scares me the most about this is all the new blood coming in is guys like Automatic and potentially Rush now, who've been out of competition for quite a while, who now have to reprove themselves. So instead of getting younger and bringing in that new talent that's fresh, that's motivated, and that has a different way of playing the game, they're going for some kind of older talent. So I think the tough part for me is I think it sends two kind of signals. Is obviously they don't want to build up young talent. They don't want to train new talent. They don't want to spend their time and energy on that. They're kind of in like, let's get these guys in. Let's get them back up to speed as quick as possible. And then we want to be contesting for titles as soon as possible, which is kind of scary in my mind. If you're not going to want to go through that work to grow young talent, are you going to want to wait for Automatic and Rush to kind of catch up on the new meta? And are you really going to want to put the work in to make sure everyone is playing the right positions and on the same page?
I mean, would you have wanted them to take like one extra Salt player or one of those sorts of it? Would you want one of those players to be in the lineup?
Yeah, I would have I mean, I don't know how all the negotiations with all the different teams and stuff went down. Maybe they weren't available. But yeah, or like, where's Obo in all this? Like, he seems to be like a reasonable talent, a very talented kid that could be on one of these teams. And for whatever reason, he's always been out of the cold. I know he at one point had a little bit of a glimpse at an opportunity at Liquid, and the timing just didn't work out with everything that happened in Cole when he was there and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I would have liked to have just seen them go younger. I think at this point, you need to get younger. You need to bring some of those new guys in. It's literally what every team is finding success around the scene is doing, is going like Navi. Look at them this year. Bit and Perfecto, young guys finally started reaching their potential. They escalated. And Vitality's found some young talent that's contributed greatly to their kind of rise. And now we see G2 going and getting Munzie going younger. And for whatever reason, the NA scene just still doesn't want to do it quite yet, which is, I think it's leading to more issues down the road.
I will say it.
I just want to throw this out, Duncan, that I have shown great restraint not to make a CNN joke there as Moses goes. I'd just like to see them go younger. Anyway, do continue.
What am I doing on this fucking show? Jeez, here we go.
With us, Moses, you're coming with us.
When people tried to do that whole, like, the sky is falling, Valorant exists, and, the whole game is going to get drained up, which obviously was absolute nonsense. By the way, spoiler, the viewership for the major was twice what it's ever been in history. It's the other way around, you morons. The player base hates record after Valorant. So that was obviously always a nonsense narrative. But I always said the one area, inarguably, that NA did actually, or that CSGO did get fucked in by Valorant, was it drained away the young talent. Yeah. That's the problem. Because I was thinking about this the other day when I made a video. I made a video basically to explain to Valorant fans who Tens is and the fact that he wasn't actually like a famous CSGO player. Basically, he was a guy who was like briefly on a decent team, and then that was about it. He was a guy who maybe could have been someone. He hadn't actually sort of begun in his journey. Well, if you think about it, right? Tens, Som, Dapper, fucking Wardell. I mean, Floppy at one point in time was obviously over there. Yeah. So, like, dude, these are like, listen, not all of them would have made it to become an Elysian after. Yeah, of course. But like a couple of these guys probably would have. Like, these were the talents. You look at the people. Like, if you think about it, like, I think this actually reminds me, Moses, just in terms of the Valorant angle in this sense, it reminds me of the CGS period where what happens is you took out like the next crop. And so the problem is you do eventually get the next players. It's just you got to sort of wait while you're in a holding pattern with the sort of average pros. And then eventually they come through 2 or 3 years later when it's their time. So I feel like we've done that in NA. Like some of these extra Salt guys, like some of them were, they sort of got to jump the queue a bit, but that's why it took them an extra year to get good.
Yeah.
When was the first competitive NA team in CSGO? It was like 2014, where you really felt like iBuyPower or Cloud9 could actually compete. 2015 even. So if you think about that,
the complexity that with Samfist that made it to the semifinals of the first major, right?
Yep, there was that one as well. I think they lost that series as well, 10IP. But I mean, outside of that, there wasn't a whole lot early on. I know there was the Quantic team that randomly won one of the ESCAs, but overall, like I don't think we considered North American Counterstrike like healthy and back until 2014, 2015. So it took 7 or 8 years to recover after CGS. we're hitting another dark age like that. And I think the real problem is with NA, if you want to look at the health of the scene, I mean, who cares about the kind of lineups and the teams that are being made right now? If you look at it compared to Europe, the NA scene is just like years behind now. Like with all these teams now coming up with academy rosters, having I would hope and I'm presuming that the teams have enough of a connection between the main roster and the academy roster that it's going to be a more seamless transition in the future for subs to come in or younger players to transition in. And all of a sudden you're looking at North America and it's just going to be a cycle of like if we don't start establishing that kind of infrastructure, it's going to be a cycle of we finally have teams back and then dark ages, and then we finally have teams back.
Let's be real though, Jason. It's gonna stay dark ages because the thing that the elephant in the room, essentially, which by the way, that's become my new catchphrase now. Apparently, I say it at least once a podcast. Nice. Yeah, whatever. Who cares? It's better than some of the other shit ones I've probably had. But anyway, the elephant in the room is that at that time when NA got good, that was when the most money was pouring into the game, right? And now that the money isn't there. Guess what? They've all gone and fucked off to where the money is. Now, unless the money comes... But look, it's just... esports is just unbelievably cynical in North America because more than any other region, it's not really about excellence. It's about selling things. It's about optics. It's about eyeballs. It's about numbers. It's about marketing. And it's interwoven. Yeah, they'd like to win things too. But as you'll see, Team Liquid, for example, will double down on a player they believe is like more brand representative. It has a bigger branding than is actually a better player and someone that might like guide them to victory. And I think there's a lot of NA orgs are like that. Like 100 Thieves, they pieced out as soon as they could, didn't really pay it any mind. And they all say the same thing. We just don't see the opportunities. They don't go in on Dota. We just don't see the opportunities. So unless there is realistic revenue streams in the game that are like inherently like baked in, unless the developer's going to give you like a franchise slot, something that has appreciable value, unfortunately, the reality is I don't think North America is going to make a beeline to come back to CSGO unless they can pick up a cheap European team and be relevant just for something to do in the background while they focus on their much more profitable teams. That's the NA way, and it has been pretty much for as long as I've been around esports, honestly.
Here's the thing. We've already talked on other shows and on past episodes about the actual EG lineup itself, which was the real news. All I'll say is I'm a bit underwhelmed by it personally. Like, I actually think the saddest thing for me about the EG and the Team Liquid lineups is on paper, only on paper, because we saw what they were like in the server. On paper, I actually think the last Team Liquid lineup was better than both lineups. It's just it didn't work for some reason in the server. Like, I always thought that Team Liquid lineup on paper always looked good. I understood why they kept trying with it. Like, you look at the names, you're like, surely this works. Like, 3 of these players are going to have a good game eventually, surely. But the problem is it just happens so rarely. But that's the thing I think kind of sucks. I'd get if, like, they were leaving, but they had some super team planned. Like, both of them just look like a bit like, is that it? You are aware over in Europe, people are making like super teams and fucking bringing like the next Zemus on. And you guys are just making like old rosters from 5 years ago. What? What is this? Like, I'll give Liquid credit. At least Liquid is putting OC in. They're trying one player that could have like potential expand. Like the one that EG's making. Dude, this is a fucking known quantity, this lineup. Like, what do you expect from this? Like, you're not going to win a major with this team. So I just find it a bit underwhelming is all.
Yeah, the gamble is that Automatic and Rush are going to have to be like 10 times better than they were, like just out of nowhere. Roll the dice. We'll see.
Rush isn't even the surprising move for me,
dude. Think about this. I'll say this to be fair. On this show, I've called out the fact that I actually think it makes Valorant look like a fucking joke esport. That you hear the stories like my mate Zeus and other people will say publicly that you get offered the Valorant contract, even if you're like, but you are aware I don't even Moonlight. I've never installed Valorant. They still offer you the contract, right? When that happens, it makes me think, what a fucking joke this is. But I'll say this, to be fair, we're all doing the same for all the guys coming back. Like, they come back, they haven't played one lick of official Counterstrike in a year, some of these guys. And we're just like, oh, welcome back in, just take a top climb. By the way, if I was a guy in Extra Salt there, I'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like, bro, I get it that, like, I'm not better than someone active now. Like, I'm not going to get a NAF spot. But I can't even have a max spot. He doesn't even play Counter-Strike anymore, which is assuming he's as good as he was last year. Like, I think it's a bit crazy that these people don't have to at least, like, recommit for a few months of playing, like, all the pogs or go on to Extra Salt for a few months and show you've got the passion for the game again.
Yeah, I mean, like, Automatic's the surprising one for me. Like, I mean, it's not surprising in the sense that obviously, Stewie likes playing with him,
of course,
and they had all that success going back to the major. But I mean, Automatic wasn't like he was a shadow of himself for years before he even went to Valorant. I don't think he's made a great splash over there, hence why he's coming back. Because, spoiler, by the way, you do understand, if you're one of these washed NA players that go to Valorant, you only have a year left. The window of opportunity is drastically, rapidly closing over in Valorant. There's all these Zoomer kids now that have been brought up with fucking Fortnite, where it's just like, it's got like the APM of fucking StarCraft and the aim of fucking CSGO. So these kids are just going to blow you out the fucking water with your 34-year-old fucking reflexes. So, I mean, they're all going to come back, and the question is, what kind of home do they have? For me, Automatic's the one on the roster where I've got the most question marks. I think Rush will be a really good support player for this team, and they definitely need one. It's not like they need more firepower. It's what Automatic's going to do in this team and how good he's going to be, because I think if you add one more known quantity, in other words, a CSGO player, if you add one more CSGO player to this roster, I think it's got the potential to be good if Breezy and Cirque get their shit together.
I think one of my not problems with this, but I think with Rush, I would have liked to have seen Rush of all the players. I think Rush would have been a perfect one to go to a younger team and have been like the veteran leadership voice and like kind of that kind of like the Hobbit of Gambit for some kind of young NA team. I think Rush would have fit really well in that role, and I think he could have helped them a bunch. So if this does go through, that's kind of the move I was hoping Rush would make, because I've always admired. While he's not obviously the most skilled player, super impactful player, I think in terms of his mentality, in terms of his fit as a team member and a teammate, I think Rush would have been absolutely perfect to be like a veteran on a young squad. That could have been cool for him.
So look, that's that. That's EG. Maybe you can snipe Malik's job and get back into coaching, Jason. Maybe that's what you need to do. Fresh.
I'm okay, man. I dip my toes in that pool. It's all right.
Yeah, full of piranhas, no toes, of course. Yeah, perfect.
So, by the way, for the last 2 years, EG has been the org that people go to for their careers to die.
Yeah.
So well, I mean, Moses just came back to life.
I was going to say,
Lazarus, motherfucker. He's not going to really die already.
Back to the Bible, Lazarus, and what it really means. Why God shouldn't have resurrected him?
I don't know if you guys talked about it, but I think the most interesting roster out of North America is that rumored Complexity one, of them getting the extra salt guys, Grim going back there. I think that's the most interesting roster coming out of NA, and I think probably that team doing well is probably the best thing that could happen to North America.
But it's mate. Counterstrike. In line with what I said earlier, look, I doubt they do better than both of them because there are some good players. I would make a bet right now. With the lineups I've seen for these three different teams, the extra salt team will be better than one of EG or Liquid. I don't know which one, but I would put a bet, because the difference is, as you're kind of pointing out, dude, they have mad potential in that team. Like, first of all, step one, I can tell you this will happen right now. As soon as they put Grim in that team, assuming they actually build the team around him, he will become one of the best players. So there's a player already playing above the level he was at in Liquid. And then you look at some of the other names, like Extra Salt already had some good players. Yeah, they don't have Aussie anymore, but like I actually think that's a team where, like, by the end of 2022, that team could be like a top 10 borderline team. They could be like starting to make some waves, because all you need is the players to get a little bit better, and the difference is they're not washed. These are players that are still on the come up. The trajectory line's going up, isn't it? And they've got the experience now. They've got a little bit of experience under their belt.
It's why I'm still gonna laugh about Copenhagen Flames like just pricing themselves out of that deal. Like, fuck.
Did you hear this story, Moses?
Yeah, you know about this, right?
It turns out Copenhagen Flames.
I heard the price and everything.
Yeah, they could already have been in like Complexity, but they were trying to ask. No, it's not the price for the whole team. Yeah. Just they were trying to ask for like mega box salaries because they got big heads after the major. Apparently,
yeah. Word on the street is the fucking salary demands were just too ridiculous. And Complexity were like, listen, if we've got a choice of unknown quantity Danish team or upcoming NA team, if we want to do it on a budget, it's definitely option 2, right? So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know what they asked for or anything like that, so I can't comment on it. But I know I did message Jason Lake, and I was just like, I DM'd him, and I was just like, look, I was like, you should consider an NA roster with these players. You know, help rebuild an NA scene, get back to your roots, like you did so long ago, many times before. You are the messiah that we need to lead us out of the dark times. So
he's playing that role though by now, isn't he? Because
I know he's got to be.
Every time he does, you think you've been fucked over down the years, mate. Think about poor Jason Lake.
No, I have not been fucked over anywhere close to what Jason's had to fucking deal with.
So, like, yeah, why would he want to, why would he want to give it one more go around? That's what I don't. I mean, from what I could tell as well, the Messi also appointment was meant to be because he was thinking, you know what, maybe I do go to Florida and just chill the fuck out, you know, like he was ready for retirement. So, yeah, fuck those players that fucked him over. Can't be asked. Right, let's do the awards. The first one, really easy, guys. Best player of 2021.
I don't know if we have.
Can I just say, because this ties in perfectly to some banter, which was obviously, or it was not my bad. I'm just retelling the story, right?
Right.
So the joke here is this is the least interesting one, right? Because obviously the best player of the year is obviously Simple, right? All I'll say is this. In even normal years, there was still some wiggle room. Like, you could debate who's it going to be this year. Like, obviously, if people don't remember, the first year Simple got #1. Technically, if you go off the way some people thought the ranking worked, maybe Device was going to get it because they had the most MVPs. They won the most tournament. You know, there was always some factor. I will say, it is gangster as fuck that Simple, after something like 2 names had been said, could say completely accurately, so boring to already know in advance who's #1. By the way, when you can even just say that, you are a gangster. You have won. You have literally completed the game. Like, that's just fucking baller. Because it wasn't even sarcasm. It actually is boring that he has to wait 20 days or something to know that, yeah, well, obviously I'm the best, Alice. Just give me it. Like, thanks.
Yeah, that was actually an awesome fucking tweet. I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to see him leaning into it. I mean, look, I guess the debate really should just be who's the second best player of 2021 in a way, because, you know, I can't think of any argument against Simple for this year. Yes. And I put it this way, I also thought it was overblown in past years. I know when in 2020, you know, when Ziwu got it over and Simple was second, that was a bit of a weird one. And personally, I thought it should have been the other way around. But, I mean, no one's been close. I don't even think there's a compelling argument for Ziwu to be second this year. Like, realistically, it should be Shiro if we include the totality of the year and add some weight to the online era.
I just thought that's actually because obviously the whole top 20 is going on at the moment. If you notice, what's fucking up this whole debate is people aren't what you're going to do is before you don't say your answer and then give the reasoning afterwards. You have to say your reasoning first so that your answer makes sense. So the 4 people have all made with these ranking lists is nobody says at the beginning, how much am I counting LAN? Because as far as I can tell, it's not just recency bias. Some people are only counting LAN. So if you're only counting LAN, of course Nico looks like he has to be the second best, doesn't he? And you know, but in this scenario, the question is, so I think if we're all going to answer this, we have to answer it. How much do you Moses? How much do you include the online period? Like, for example, can a Gambit player be in? I mean, they were like good at LAN, but they weren't like the best, obviously. Can a Gambit player be #2 in light of the fact that most of the year was online? Are you counting online? How are you doing it, mate?
I wouldn't be against it. I'd count online, but I give way more props to LAN, like at least double like the kind of weight LAN gets to online. And I think the biggest problem too is I don't know. For me, the person who would obviously be #2 from Gambit would be Shiro, right? Is who we'd think of. And I think for me, I don't even know what his stats were on LAN versus online, but when I watch Shiro play on LAN, like eye test wise, he seems a little bit more timid to me. Like, he just doesn't pass the eye test, even if the numbers are there at times. When I watch him play, I'm like, man, I feel like online he would have gone for that shot, or he would have gone for that repeat, or he would have gone for this clutch, and I didn't get the same vibe for it. So I mean, for me, that Nico's my #2, because especially when you think of like this is how dominant Simple was. First of all, is at Cologne. We even said on the final broadcast after they won the grand final, there's no one else. Like, we already said, like, Simple's going to win #1 at HLTV. There's no other possible way that anyone's even going to overtake him. We knew at that point, like 5 months ago. But everything Nico has done from like Cologne, he reintroduced himself into the conversation, and then the major on has been so mental. It's been absolutely fucking bonkers. And the argument is there to say that he was even better than Simple in like the last 2-3 months of the year. So for me, you have to give it to Nico, considering everything he's done for that team and all the different roles that he fills in that team.
Yeah, here's the angle I don't think anyone ever makes as well. When they do the debate between Nico and Ziwu, right? This is why we've got to get better analysts in the scene, guys. As in, like, we can't just leave it to people who aren't typically doing this role. Because I'm sick of hearing people just like compare numbers and go, well, a 1.13, but that's the numbers the side thing, you moron. You've been watching with your eyes the games all year long and with your brain understanding them. Use your fucking words. Explain to me why this player is good. Don't go, well, the thing is, I was rating that when he had a 1.28, but at this event it was like quite off, and they only made the all you're doing now is literally wanking off over your own system of how you rank them. You're not even talking about the player anymore. So in my opinion, the main topic comes down to this. When you talk about like number 2 on this list, people are forgetting that, like, listen, Nico wasn't like Nico if you go back to like the summer. He was still a very good player. I would say at that point he was sort of like on the brink of being one of the best players. He was maybe like the 7th best player or something. He was like consistently good, but he wouldn't like super mega hard carry. The fact people are forgetting is this. If I'm contrasting Ziwu and Nico, mate, Nico's numbers, he doesn't have to even have the same number as Ziwu and he's better because his impact is mental. Think about how many crazy entries he gets, how many times he just wins a whole mid-round, how many times he wins a clutch, a pistol round. Like, this guy's impact is off the charts. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. So I don't need the number to be as good. Like, listen, Ziwu is still a stats monster. That is not deniable. And stats-wise, maybe he's number 2. But I would potentially, on this one, I'm still torn, but I would probably go with Nico number 2. Because as I say, I think people are thinking like he didn't do anything online. He just wasn't as good, and online he was clear cut. It was just even simple. Let's be real.
You saw how he was when he got to LAN. I mean, he was a very different beast. And look, Nico's always been like that. Going back to the Nico Sports, Mouse Sports lineup, he stepped up at LAN. He's that LANimal quality where you get a much better guy in tournament circumstances. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, the problem I've got is I'm never really comfortable just discounting what is essentially 2/3, maybe even 3/4 of the year, because it was online. What do we, like? How do we? I mean, obviously, lands count more, sure, and I would even say maybe recency bias for Nico is okay because he was so good at the major, and that who knows what could have happened if it wasn't for one errant deagle shot. Yeah. But I mean, for me, it should still probably. I don't know, maybe it should still be Shiro, but maybe not. I can vibe with the argument of Nico. The one I really don't get on board with at all is actually Ziwu being number 2 this year. Because Vitality they were in the fucking weeds for a long time. People forget they did a complete rebuild, had to bed in that Kyojin, and they only got back to winning ways.
They didn't have any top placings. People forget if we go back to when it was online.
On Wikipedia, it's blue as fuck, mate.
I think they had something like 1 or 2 top 4s in the entire online period this year. It was only when they got to LAN they got good. People forget that. People forget at the major when they were 0-2 in the new Legends stage. A lot of us were like, yeah, this is to be expected. They're not a very good team. Like, they might go out in the next match. It was only then when like Ziwu hard carried them to the playoffs. Like, actually, people are going to forget because of recency bias. It was only after the major went on this miracle run with the dead lineup where they had the last chance,
Yeah. I was going to say they probably have the same kind of like death rattle not death rattle, I shouldn't say that, but that we had at Liquid at the end of last year. Is once we knew that we were making the roster change with Twist, it was like full steam ahead. We had that one last run to the finals, the last event. Same thing. Like, all the frustration goes away. Like, everyone stops being so tense.
Guys, I've got to tell everyone I'm leaving immediately. Like, I need to do this interview right now. Yeah. Couldn't wait to get the fuck out. Good times.
No comment.
But yeah, so I don't know. It's Shiro or Nico anyway, one way or the other.
In my mind, there's not even a debate. I put Nico there. It's not even really a question in my head, to be honest with you.
Duncan.
If I have to, push comes. The problem is I'd also have to go back and watch. But my brain says Nico. I agree with you though, Richard. The problem I have is I have a really hard time with the Gambit players because they were just so exceptional online. It's like I can't discount it completely, but at the same time, because there was enough LANs at the end of the year, I feel like I have to give LAN like precedence. So what I'm sort of doing is I'm gonna make it that like the LAN period, which was like 3 or 4. Let's say the LAN period was like the last quarter of the year, third of the year, if you want to say, like, count Cologne as well. Realistically, even though online was 2/3, I'm going to say the 2/3 is just like equal to the LAN period. So in that scenario, I guess I'll give Nico the edge.
All right, so congratulations to Nico for winning the second best player of 2021. The highly
That is a weird award.
well, I mean, what else is there to say? We can't say you can't say and just talk wank simple off all fucking podcast, can we? Because I'm sure we'll
doing it for like 4 years now. Why not just load it up again?
So congrats, Nico.
All I'm going to say is this, because listen, I'm going to do that foreign thing where I really obnoxiously point out things that people don't want to hear and hurt their feelings. Right. I'm actually one of the best in the world at it, but let's go.
Turn the stream off, Sam.
No, the thing is, like, in this scenario, the joke is, right, ZWoo fans, if you really believe your player was number one in 2019, 2020, listen, 2019, I'll give you that one. I think it was too. But I did make this point. People forget this. At the end of 2019, Simple actually had almost identical stats to ZWoo. In ZWoo's best year, blah, 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 clear best player. Second year, last year, I agree with Richard. Personally, I think it was like a preference one, and I actually would have picked Simple. But I tell you what, this is not a great look if you all want ZWoo to challenge Simple, because on Simple's great year, he's way ahead, and maybe ZWoo's not in number 2. Like, that's actually the reason why, jokes aside, it actually is a good accomplishment to win second best player of the year 2022 for your Nico. That means you were ahead of ZWoo. That means you actually outperformed the guy most people think can potentially be the GOAT one day. I was saying it like it's going to be obnoxious. That's actually a mad props to Nico. What a great return in his career.
Yeah, and look, we don't know at the start of this year which one out of G2 or Vitality is going to come out swinging big. I mean, it could just as easily be it takes Vitality longer than G2 to bed in the new roster moves. I mean, they've both spent big money to essentially build a super team to topple Na'Vi. So
I'll tell you what would be the dream. Here's what would be cool, because it's never happened in CSGO history. Imagine if this year Na'Vi, G2, and Vitality legitimately are all elite teams the whole year, and then these 3 players could just actually settle it amongst themselves. We don't have to do the, like, yeah, but this one made more finals, then this guy was only in quarters, and was just like, no, let's just have the players just ball out. Like, basically, people don't know, if you're like American, for example, when Messi and Ronaldo were going every year, one of them wins the best player of the year. The point is they're also on 2 of the absolute best teams, so the idea is they're all going to be in all the fights. So you don't have to make those excuses. So I'd actually like to see sort of a fair fight among these guys, because they are prodigies, but it's always one guy's team's better this year, or how do you grade it if he didn't, he carried but he went out in the quarters. Like, that makes it super complicated. I'd rather they just all win a bunch of titles and let's see who's really the best.
Well, yeah, and this is why it's actually going to be an interesting year, because which, to be fair, like last year it was a tale of 2 teams, if we're being honest about it, with a brief kind of flicker from like G2 and Vitality in the second half of the year, and Gambit and Na'Vi the rest of the time. But I think actually if everyone gets their shit together and all these power moves play off, 2022 is probably going to be the best year in terms of competitive CS at the highest level we've had in a long, long time, because the top 5 is going to be comprised of this Na'Vi team, who you can have a discussion with the addition of Bit as to where they are in the greatest teams of all time. Spoiler, we will actually be doing content around that with our time travel land content that's coming this year. Then you've got Gambit, obviously, is still going to be in the mix. They're not going to go anywhere. You've got the Vitality super team. You've got G2. And let's not forget, Rops has just joined fucking FaZe. The Olaf Meister washed years are finally over. No more excuses, Carrigan. So I expect them to be in that top 5 and challenging for trophies as well. So this is like, I think 2022 is going to be one of the best years for CS probably since that 2018, 2019 run, personally.
Which is weird to say that coming out of this whole pandemic in the last 2 years that have sucked so much ass. But like somehow Counterstrike, like we've been not only like the pandemic shit and online Counterstrike, but the fucking cheating scandal, but the fucking match fixing cloud that's been over this whole time. Somehow Counterstrike's coming out of this and being like, yep, we're poised to have our most exciting year yet. Which is fucking crazy. I'm pumped for it. It's gonna be a year.
I didn't want to say this now, Moses, but it is a bad luck that you don't get coaching gigs, and you did nothing wrong. But people who actually were banned for coaching, they still get coaching gigs. So, just saying.
Fuck, I'd actually never thought about it that way. That's really
that's what I'm here for, Moses. I'm here to put in that extra little bit of context.
You should have just cheated, Jason. Should have just cheated the whole time. You and Yanko, the answer was at your disposal the whole time. Just cheat like every other piece of shit.
All we had to do was cheat. That's fucked up.
Moses, no joke. This is it's half a joke, but there's a real question in here. The moment you initially heard about that, because obviously remember initially we didn't technically know how much people had used the bug, we just knew it existed and some people have used it. Did you low-key, a bit like players? I know there's been pro players who've thought this. You know when pro players think someone cheats, like the famous example would be Fnatic back in late 2014. Part of why they were all cheesed off was because that was the #1 team. So their logic was like, wait a minute, so you might have actually been cheating and that's why you're better than us. Did part of you actually think that when that news was like, wait a minute, is this why they're all beating us? They're all just cheating, and I'm the only one not cheating. Did you actually think that at all?
No. Well, because also remember, I joined like right when the cheating scandal was like hitting its like peak discovery. So the first event I actually worked was when the cheating bug had been patched and figured out, and they'd already started, cutting off people's heads. Well, not really, because they all got to come back and start fucking coaching.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the heads just grew back. So
no, it wasn't any of that. But I remember just thinking like, what the absolute fuck? Like, why are there why? I don't get. I don't know. It was just everything.
In that case, I take it all back. Technically, you didn't actually have a proper chance to cheat. Or for all I know, things get a bit dicey around sort of November. November, December. Fallen joins the team. He goes, hey, Jason, you expect me, right? Well, what about that? And they go, oh, maybe
he was shocked the whole time.
Everyone shocks.
Yeah. So I mean, look, dude. Like, honestly, it's just so because Jason. I remember Jason's reaction. So obviously, when Yanko found out about it, Yanko was like,
he was mouthing.
believe it. Like, he was caught. These are fucking cunts. Like, he was like on a warpath. Jason was just like sort of just despondent, going, all right, yep. So everyone was cheating, brilliant. Yep, here I am trying to the last honest man in CS. Jason got kind of depressed and sad. So,
well, you guys both know what it's like, because those of us who have been around this long in Counterstrike and esports, I mean, this is going to be me on my fucking high horse, and I apologize for the diatribe.
No, it's all right. Do it.
It is kind of like there is a certain feeling where it's like we've been working in this industry and playing this game at a time where you could do nothing except win pride. Me winning an event in 2003 was like I get to eat at Applebee's instead of Taco Bell. Like that was the big victory, was I get to have a little bit better of a meal at the end of the day, or I get to split 2 rooms amongst 6 teammates rather than 1 hotel room. So I mean, it is just like a little bit looking back, especially some of the guys who got caught who are from those days, and you're just like, please. Why is it like this? Like, you guys are going to ruin the good thing everyone has going for us. The worst thing that can happen to any esport is losing that trust and faith that it's actually legitimate. Like, stop being fucking cunts.
Yeah, well, listen, man, I you know me, I'm already there. Like,
yeah, you've been there for a long time.
Yeah, true. But I mean, you also know that I'm also just a fucking glutton for punishment. Like,
But so, you exist in a world with journalism where you have to be cynical, because you exist in a space where being cynical is the only way to do the job effectively.
Yeah, and also the shit that comes across your desk, there's stuff that but can't publish, essentially, because it's not stuff you can objectively prove, or it doesn't meet the editorial standards, but you just know it. You just know it in your head. And so you go around and it's just like, yeah, it fucking sucks. But I mean, for me, sort of the almost comedically, like, it went from a year of waiting for match fixes to get banned, only to watch them go and become huge streaming stars or big in Valorant, and they've already made hundreds of thousands of illicit dollars from fixing games for which they will face absolutely zero comeuppance, as far as I can tell, into all of the coaches being, 39 of them being absolute scumbags, some are ridiculous extremes like that Zona cunt, and they all just get jobs again. They all just get jobs. Like there's no penalties. Meanwhile, I will just tweet an opinion. The biggest crime ever. I'm not allowed to work. I'll just commit self-defense and not let someone headbutt me. Your life's over, Richard. You know what I mean? So it's like.
Meanwhile, let's do a poll of the I'm a Power guys, where they got fucking wrecked.
Well, yeah, also, sort of. I mean, that's like one of those, if you did where are they now? All right, like maybe Dazed is on a fucking trailer out in Dakota or something. Like, just like, yep, my name's Dazed and I used to be a big star, big rodeo star. I don't know, I've been watching Yellowstone, so what the fuck. But anyway.
Nice. I need to see the new season.
Yeah, it's sick. It's so ridiculous.
Dazed is just literally delivering some food from fucking DoorDash. Then they give him a 4-star review. And he's like, I brought it early, I brought the bread. What more can I do? Just recreating old lines.
Up-to-date memes, a new segment with Duncan, Thor, and Shield. But anyway, so you've got that, right? Like, but you know, and obviously Brax had a run in Valorant. Things weren't so bad for him. I don't know what happened to AZK because he was in Overwatch for a bit, and that Steele went on still do really well for himself, and obviously Skadoodle just got away with it, didn't he? So you know, so I mean, it's like it's interesting. I think overall they got more wrecked than any of these kids are gonna get. But, you know, they also were the best. So it was a lot further to fall, wasn't it?
As someone who's worked in Counterstrike exclusively for the past 6 years in this industry, there is something like very sad and depressing about the fact that the guys who got caught cheating are still getting hired and employed. And then you think back to like the gambling era where like gambling was just so rampant. And you think of all those guys who scammed all those viewers. And if you just think back across years, you're like, man, it really is like all the douchebags who are like breaking all like the moral and ethical rules, who are getting all like the big money and just disappearing. Like those gambling guys.
That's what we all should have done. Like for legit, you know, integrity ain't worth shit in esports. It's literally the worst commodity to double down on. It's just something for you. It's just something to put on a shelf, you know, next to bric-a-brac. That's all it is. You put it next to the awards, but everyone else is a fucking millionaire.
I remember getting some of those gambling offers back in like 2016-ish, like around MLG Columbus or like right around like the start of E-League that were like, they were like 9-10K a month just to make like YouTube videos of gambling shit.
I had, and I've said this before, and people, there were like shady gambling companies that were just coming out and saying, look, Richard, because of your integrity, if you would like to sell that integrity to come out and chill for us, right?
That's pretty next level.
Yeah, because these people don't even understand what integrity is. The point of integrity is it's not a commodity that you can buy. It's something
that you gotta respect him for being so open about the situation. Sell your integrity, not make these videos for us. This is the real commodity.
Like I should dig out the emails because some of these companies don't even exist now. They got the bag and fucked off. But literally discussions where it's like people are going, if you, because of your integrity and your reputation, if you come out and say we're legit, we'll pay you 6 figures. And then I go, but are you legit? And they go, no, of course not.
That's why we're giving you the 6 figures. No,
that's exactly That's literally the discussion. Yeah. Keep up, you silly twat. Yeah, it's unbelievable, mate. So anyway, let's get on to the next award. Best team of the year. I imagine this is going to be similarly.
Another debate for number 2, I see.
Yeah, exactly. It is actually, because I think we're in agreement. Best team of the year is Na'Vi, right?
Yeah.
So who's number 2 then?
Couldn't do it online though, could they? Oh, whatever. That's the question, because actually number 2 is an interesting debate. Here's the problem. This is why we're going to, again, have to figure out this online thing, because if we're counting online as it being anywhere meaningful, it should be Gambit.
It's got to be Gambit.
Yeah, think about insanely successful. People forget when it was online, they were like Astralis on LAN. A bad LAN was like come second or third. Like they were. I don't know about when they play online, obviously. Like they were unbelievable in that online period. I think people have forgotten, sadly. Like even when Na'Vi would beat them towards the end, like it would take everything. It would take like inhuman performances. So I feel like even though they were like mildly underwhelming on LAN, let's be real, they still made top 4 at the major and made the Blast World Final and then won that sort of like tier 2 LAN over Entropic. I think overall they should be number 2. I feel like recency bias is going to make people think it's like G2 or something, but like I don't know if it is over the whole year.
Yeah, Jason.
I was gonna say literally like verbatim. I was on the same page with Duncan up until I was looking at some of these stats for 2021, and G2 actually. I'm trying to see how far back this goes, but they had, a pretty fucking decent year. A lot of third
like, if you remember online, they were always like semi-finals, weren't they? So they weren't bad either online. There's certainly a debate. Again, it depends on which you count the LAN period, right?
It almost feels like the same exact thing with Shiro versus Nico is like how much are you actually going to wait the LAN period over the online period? I don't know. I still think what Gambit did, regardless of whether it was online or LAN, because on some level I do think G2's accomplishments on LAN like are obviously so much more impressive than Gambit's, but to come out of nowhere the way Gambit did and dominate that online era, that the way they did for the first 5-6 months is so impressive in and of itself that I'm not even necessarily bothered by the online versus LAN debate. I think, appearing from that point, having Shiro be in the conversation for, top 3 player in the world of the year. Exile established himself as a star. Hobbit reinvented himself in a career. Oh, by the way, through all of this, their coach was one of the guys banned for for cheating, and they had to use their analysts who stepped into the plate and apparently did a much better job as well. So I think with Gambit's accomplishments coming out of nowhere the way they did are massive. So I have to give it to Gambit, number 2.
Yeah, I think that's
I'll give you an angle as well. I'll throw another angle out, which is this.
Sure.
Though I think actually G2 fucked themselves at the end of the year, because here's the problem they had. If they had just won IEM Winter, the tournament that didn't have Na'Vi, then they've got a real way better. The problem is they haven't won anything. So even though they were consistently very good,
win a single tournament, did they?
Won nothing in the year. Listen, like that doesn't discount them, but Gambit won a lot of fucking tournaments this year.
Well, yeah, but when you consider Heroic won more and Vitality won more, like they actually won tournaments. So G2 can't be second for me.
That's fair. That's a fair point. I didn't think about that one. I will say, Duncan, think about it this way. Both G2 and Vitality had the same problem towards the end of the year, playing super well, but making roster changes.
Yes.
That had to be such a weird scenario at like Blast Final when Vitality's making that like last ditch run. And you have to imagine Dupree, Zonic, and Magus are just sitting there like, please don't make the fucking final again. Please don't win the last 2 events of the year. That would fucking suck.
Well, I mean, look, the way Vitality ended the year, I think it has added an additional pressure component to the Danes now that they've joined.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's a good thing. Yeah,
definitely. This is another reason why I've said, like, out of the 2 teams, it's like the intangibles for G2 are things like, how are Alexi B and Nico going to vibe? Is Monazi going to be the prodigy was in tier 2? And, these questions have almost like exciting answers to explore in advance. Basically, the intangible for Vitality is, well, first of all, can the French and the Danes gel and get along? And second, are the Danes just washed up? That's it. I mean, that's the big question, right? Again, the elephant in the room, a new podcast with Richard Lewis. I'm not talking about Sonic. Sorry, homie, that's cheap.
That's so unreasonable, though. That's a complete straight. He wasn't even involved in the story at all.
I didn't expect that whatsoever. Holy shit!
We've all had a drink, right? So anyway, look, it's the end of the year. So I love Sonic. He knows that, and he's done really well. He's lost weight and he's looking healthy. Good lad. Right. Anyway, and I'm fat too. There you go. Right. We've covered all the bases.
He was shit this year anyway. The only time he'll be mentioned on this list is the best Sonic. It's not 2020, mate. Get your shit together.
Yeah. So anyway, for me, we're gonna also as well. There's like a potential clash, right? Because Apex is the IGL. I know Magisk fancies himself as doing that role. I don't think he felt particularly. I mean, it's one thing to give up the reins to Glaive, who you've got trust in and you've worked with for a while. Although I don't even think he was necessarily happy about it because he was the understudy and he did really well. I mean, they looked arguably better then under Magisk than they do now. Sure, different personnel or whatever, but yeah, there's way more questions for Vitality, and now there's this additional pressure because you've broke apart a winning team. You broke apart a team that ended Na'Vi streak on Nuke. There was something there.
Obviously, we'll do another episode, I'm sure, with all the roster moves, etc. in the next one, like you said. We're going to do. I will say there was one detail, though, that I wanted to bring up, because this is so weird. This is more like on the funny side than like the serious analytical side. Dude, am I missing something? Right, Na'Vi has only just sold Monacy, Richard. Like, supposedly the deal's done, it's going to happen. You remember, you're selling a player with 0 tier 1 experience for quite a large amount of money, because the premise is he is going to be the next Zebu, Shiro, he's going to be the next, like, true bit. He's going to be a true prodigy and be amazing at tier 1. Dude, Navi's barely got the fucking money deposited in the bank. And they've made all these like weird passive-aggressive comments that like almost sound like they're shitting on him after they've sold him. Like, you want him to believe it was a good deal, you morons? Do you not see this? Like, Blade was sort of explaining his flaws. Yeah. And then like the Na'Vi junior coach, I think, was even saying, and I'm like, why are you like, as they're leaving the shop going, tis it. Not really the best vacuum cleaner, though, is it? Though it has a lot of problems there. Sorry, what do you say? No, nothing. It does sort of like clog up a bit if you use it too much. Anyway, you haven't got the receipt, have you? Like, you're supposed to be doing the opposite. Going, oh, you know what? You should do the normal lie the orgs do. You know where they go, oh, it breaks our hearts after selling because we know he's going to be the next great player. But they're obviously all lying. Like, normally you go the other way and fucking oversell that the guy was the best ever, and you don't want him to go, do you?
Yeah, I like it. I sort of like what they're doing, but I mean, you also have to understand that, like, you know, the Na'Vi system, the one thing in the CIS region, and especially when anyone even vaguely related to Na'Vi is, all they want to do is generate headlines. They'll never say no to an interview with one of them dog shit CIS, you know, news sites. And all the ex-Na'Vi players like Zeus and fucking Starix and Senya, they've all got these YouTube channels where they're like, Source 2 will definitely be released this way. It's just clout-seeking absolute nonsense. And so, you know, I mean, like, I'm still blown away by the fact that Monazzi's doing interviews going, yes, and Device said he no longer wants to play in this team. And also, like, who the fuck are you to talk about Device? Like, get your feet under the table at least, you little cunt. Who are you? So yeah, it's fucking mental, but they can't help themselves. It's just how they roll out there. It's like, if you can get clout and attention by saying something ridiculous, hyperbolic, or just flat out lying, why not do it? All that matters is clicks. So also, there's always a little bit of that. Also,
I hope they keep doing it, and I hope that builds a rivalry. I hope there's a rivalry that comes up, but not only that. Imagine,
it could backfire, Jason. It could motivate him for sure.
If history tells us anything, it's that the shit talking will, of course, backfire because we are cursed with that. But I mean, I like that they're saying it. And if there's any org who is going to dunk on them when it turns out that he is the real deal, it is going to be G2. That's the other beautiful thing about this. Is, you know, as soon as all those words, as soon as they have to put their foot in their mouths, fucking Carlos, the rest of G2 Ocelot, he's going to dunk all over them on social media. And he's
why. He's just going to put out a picture of him just holding his nuts. Nuts. Just G2. He's gonna give Na'Vi a massive fucking
G2 tattoo on the testicle.
Yeah, exactly, man. So yeah,
we'll actually say, because we're about commemorating history and having a few laughs. I will say, if we're gonna talk about shit talking, backfiring Moses, I will totally admit, at the beginning of 2021, there was an incident where Carrigan joined FaZe, didn't he? And because at the time, Nico was, again, he wasn't like land Nico yet. He was still like pretty good Nico, but wasn't like carrying every game. And if you remember, that was when G2 sucked because they still hadn't figured out the situation with Kenny S. And I did a tweet, didn't I, where I thought, right, take a chance. What do you? There's someone. What I'm going to say is, this is all you need to know. I'll explain it this way. The team said wouldn't do as well. We're just in the conversation for were they the second best team of the year. We didn't even say the name of the team I said would be better, because I said, to be fair, this is when Cold Zero was in FaZe and it looked like it was going to be a bag of land. I did say FaZe with Carrigan will do better in 2021 than G2 with Nico. I can't lie, Moses. That's been a few months. Because listen, it was okay. Like in the middle, it's like, whatever. They're slightly better, but they don't win. And
there were 6 months in the year.
I know. You know, end of the year when they were like actually in the major finals, so I was like, whatever.
We all have our weak spots with players we love. I had Kirsta.
Sure.
Anders has Palf. Duncan, for whatever reason, picks every single in-game leader with no actual history of winning events. He is in love with the in-game leaders who show great prowess of getting a team up to the point of being able to win and not actually accomplishing it. And Duncan loves all of them.
All of them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I will say,
Carrigan, I go all the way down the line.
The best thing about that tweet is there is like a thread every week about how it completely undermines all your credibility gone on that one tweet. Leading analyst, lol. On HLTV forums with that tweet.
By the way, this should actually be at the beginning in petty grievances, because there was one thing I was going to bring up to you, mate.
Oh yeah, go on.
We've already done the morning a million times about how the mods aren't just like against us. They're actually actively corrupt on the CSGO subreddit. Because if you don't know, there are tons of threads they will delete. Like, for example, say someone actually has certain things, like if someone gets accused of match, they'll just instantly delete that because they'll go, that's some witch hunting. But what's mad is they genuinely, as long as it's only me and Richard, they will just allow threads that basically may as well be titled weekly hate thread, and everyone just goes in the hate thread. So they had one last week. I know you'll have seen this, Richard. They had a thread that went to #1 on the CSGO subreddit last week, where it was literally, no joke, just, look, I'm going to out of context take that tweet from like 5 years ago where Thorin said something to Pasha. Pasha misunderstood him.
Oh, I saw that one.
And the entire thread is just like, yeah, but fuck Thorin anyway. It's like, it's what the idea that's even A, relevant, B, anything other than witch hunting, and C, it's essentially the joke is like, look, after the fact, actually they did both agree publicly and privately it was a misunderstanding, but if we ignore that though, in a way, can't we just speculate that he is the asshole? Like, it was crazy. It was so much. Like that might be the craziest thread anyone's ever made.
Meanwhile, over on HLTV, they've started 2022 right with one of the best threads of all time. The bit, all the great minds go to HLTV. So this thread, because whenever I see a thread like this on HLTV, I'm there. It will provide you way more entertainment than Reddit. Would you date a female clone of yourself? The big hot topic over on HLTV. And what's brilliant about it is you can tell we're dealing with some really big minds over at HLTV. Not one person has brought up the genetic aspect to it. If you were to get them pregnant, what kind of mutant chimera would be born, etc. Because it's you and all your genes with all your problems, fucking you with all your genes and all your problems, dominant genes, recessive genes, all of the horrific genes. The baby, it would be fucked up beyond all recognition. So
I would.
Yeah, and I know obviously Duncan's like 100%, yeah. Why wouldn't I? There you go, perfect. But yeah, so
sapiosexual Duncan is.
So anyway, there you go, HLTV. So yes, we'll go with Gambit. Congratulations on being number 2 to Navi.
We're doing those awards still.
Jesus. Yeah. Don't worry. It's gonna. I hope
you fuck a female clone of yourself, so it's easy to get lost in the mix.
End of the year, we've all the awards, all the hot button topics that matter. Right, worst event of the year.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me think for this one. This is going to be hard. Oh, wait a minute. This one, no, it isn't. This is easy, Richard. This is actually categorically easy.
I know exactly where he's going to go.
Championship qualifier where people were just cheating, called the CISRMR. Which one was it? Was it Epic LAN? Was it Epic LAN RMR? Maybe was it Epicenter? I can't remember.
It was Epicenter. Yeah, it was Epicenter.
That RMR were essentially, look, here's the problem. We don't know that they cheated, but the fact that the team magically never played like that again, didn't look up and to the left constantly.
And then like disbanded.
Like some sort of mad cosplay of fucking, actually, that was back and to the left. I was going to say John F. Kennedy there, but someone said it's an insensitive remark to say. I'd say get over it. It's not too soon, is it? He died like 1960 something, didn't he? Back when they were faking moonlands, everything. Well, whatever they did with moonlands, you know, I'm not here to judge. So all I'm going to say is, I actually do think it has to be that RMR show. Was there even an event close for that? Listen, Flashpoint 3 wasn't great either. I'll throw that in the mix right there. Flashpoint 3 there was a team in the final of Flashpoint 3 that essentially played triple elimination while everyone else played double elim. That ain't a great look either. I'm just going to say, Valve, are you listening? Those were 2 RMRs, for fuck's sake. I'm maybe looking at these RMRs.
Yeah. I mean, it was between those two for me, because obviously, like, the major was horrendous working conditions. I know Jason doesn't want to commit to that.
He's one of the only ones who hasn't said anything. Have you noticed that? He sort of stayed out of it a bit, hasn't he?
Like a coward in a way.
But I feel like the things that needed to be said have been said, and
by other people, and
by people that aren't me.
By brave people.
Listen, here's the thing.
Blood up from Sebler, who would you pick?
You guys saw me at the major. I actually didn't even care about the working conditions at a certain point of that event. I was, dude, that was...
You were drunk the whole time, Jason. The whole time.
I'm not going to necessarily go and say that was the worst event of the year, but I mean, I think on a personal level, it was probably the worst event of the year for me, just because of all that drama. It was weird being involved in all of that, and on some level being the center point of that drama. And never being
zero agency in anything that was happening.
Yeah, zero ability to make a decision that would affect the outcome, and zero people asking me about that incident. And I was the center of all that controversy. Was my partner leaving and me not having the semifinal anymore, and nobody has. I've had no involvement in anything about that incident. So that event for me personally was the worst one. I would go with Duncan that an RMR where there is rampant cheating and teams formally submitting a letter to look into a team for cheating it's gone off the rails.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, like, what really saved the major in terms of working conditions was they didn't talk about whoever brought all that cocaine. Fucking thank whoever that was. I couldn't have made it through without all that coke. It was great. It was cocaine almost every day. It was fucking sick. So whoever did that
got a bit awkward was one day we were all racing down the table and Semler only went and bloody took Bardolph's line, didn't he? It was really awkward, guys, but it's all right.
Sneezed and off it went. Yeah. But anyway, so once again, cocaine was the hero of the story. But anyway, on to the CISRM. There was loads of cocaine. That's not a bit. That's not a bit.
Hey, Mom, hope you're not watching the end of the year awards show.
Yeah, Jason didn't do any.
He didn't do any of it. He had an non-alcoholic beer.
Have you noticed he is looking really thin, though, isn't he? Really thin and shiny. Nice. So just whatever, make of that what you will. One of the symptoms.
Diet for skiers, mostly.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, there was loads of cocaine though, and let's for me, it's one of the RMRs. I was going to say maybe for me, the CIS RMR is obviously the one that stands out. That was completely illegitimate. They should have redone it. They should have kicked Akuma out, and they should have redone the whole fucking thing.
The devil's advocate though, because here's the thing: people are going to think for that reason, like, look, if a team did really just cheat, that wins already, doesn't it? Like the idea you're in a World Championship qualifier. But I'll make a devil's advocate case for why Flashpoint 3 was actually worse than people remember. So one, it did have this match that Nip played against Anonymous, where Anonymous did win the game, and then essentially Flashpoint just went like, zibbity dibbity doo, no, this is not the result for you. Like, and it just disappeared from history and never happened. And to the extent that, as far as I know, I think even HLTV.org, removed it for existence or something. I can't even remember what the status is. So we've essentially just fucking Soviet era, removed Stalin's mate from a picture. Like, we've just done that to CSGO history, and we're all pretending that's cool.
Now.
And everyone forgets these other two details. So the other detail is, one, that when they did the replay, just the amount of fuckery between the Nip.org and then Flashpoint, like that in itself was such a black mark. And then finally, everyone's forgotten now because we all feel sorry for him for obvious reasons. But when Device made that fucking hilarious tweet, which if it had actually been trash talk, would be the most god-tier trash talk of all time.
In the club right now.
Because he essentially did that thing where your dad's just beating 10 shades of shit out of you, but then also gaslighting you like, it's hurting me more than you. I even used to turn around and go, it isn't though. It isn't. I said that'll never make sense. Obviously, then they go talking back. Brilliant. I guess that's hurting you. Oh, why are you hurting yourself so much? Give me a break anyway. So whatever. Even back then, I was fucking roasting them. That's right, Moses. Imagine that. Me taking a beating from all angles, but still getting lines off. What's changed, eh? Fucking hell. Anyway, whatever.
You're a hero, Duncan.
In some ways, my life, I'm probably still back there, and it's also a fever dream as I'm in a fucking horrible domestic scenario.
So, I mean, look, I think it has to be the CIS RMR one, though, because all evidence points
exactly. Back to the point,
all evidence, for me, points to a sort of coordinated effort to essentially manipulate the outcomes of the event. Like, basically, this is what happened. People fundamentally...
Yeah, I actually don't remember, so fill me in.
Yeah. So basically... Akuma obviously had unbelievable performances. They nearly beat Gambit. Gambit were able to overcome them. They absolutely battered Na'Vi. In fact, there was a thread on Reddit today basically saying like Simple's only failed to get less than 10 kills on two maps this year, and one of them, of course, was against Akuma. I think there was like loads of videos about it, analysing it, and like Akuma basically were ranked something like 153rd in the world when they came into this. They've got players that are already banned for suspected match-fixing activity and betting activity. They're not allowed to place bets on certain sites. There's all these gambling sites that just wouldn't take action on the Akuma games. It came out after the fact, ESIC, that the former CEO of Akuma, back when they were called something else, had placed bets on these outcomes. All the evidence points to...
Remember that line as well, though, where this is how amazing this story was, Moses. When they essentially got accused of all this stuff, the owner of Akuma, no joke, comes out and he goes, no, I only bet on my own team or something. He said something mental like that. Like, something. He said that, but he said it as if it was like, you're the fool for questioning.
But he said, I placed bets, but it was a penny compared to what I have lost or whatever. And then he went, and that psychology, I don't even know. Remember that? That psychology, that is like, what? Yeah, mate, he was out of his fucking mind. He didn't even deny any of it. But basically what it looks like happened to me, based on all the evidence that I saw and stuff from behind the scenes, the way match fixing works, and I've got an article coming out about this soon, is that, the easiest way to fix a match is obviously bet on yourself to lose. You bet on yourself to lose, and then you just don't try, right? And then you lose. right? Easy. But it's too obvious, and a lot of the time the betting companies will cancel it. And now, if you can bet on yourself to win, if you can make it so you win, it's a lot harder to prove that, right? So you either do that by cheating. That's happened in the past, funnily enough. I was just looking at a game with NME back when Ryu was playing, and a team called Sinister, where a player actively cheated in that because it's relevant to another match fixing story I'm writing. And the other way you do it is, and this is very popular right now, you gain access to the clean feed of the stream, the one they give to the betting partners and the data people, and then I can just see where everyone is on the radar. Suspiciously, what were Akuma doing? Looking up at a radar. Now, how would you get that stream? Somebody at the tournament has that. So basically, what happened, whether Epicenter want to ever come out and say it or not, a rogue employee, and let's hope it was that, right, gave Akuma the feed, and they used it to cheat to win in a qualifier for the World Championships. That event is a disgrace. And the fact that we've never got to the bottom of it and the Akuma players are still out there, it's appalling. It's just another reason why 2021 was just such a garbage year for CS. It's just full of cheating scum.
By the way, I just looked it up from that stat you were saying where apparently Simple had like 2 maps in the year where he had less than 10 kills. It's actually more ridiculous if you think about it this way, though. I looked it up now. It's true. On the first map against Akuma, on Mirage, they lose 16-2. So Simple only has 5 kills, right? On the second map that Na'Vi also lost, he has 27 kills and goes plus it. Even when they cheat, he still goes 27 kills. Like, motherfucker, does he like you? What does it actually take to stop him aside from people cheating? People could actually see on the monitor what's going to happen, and they still can't stop him. Like, this is ridiculous. What is this? And by the way, there's even a side angle which everyone forgets, which I think was one of the most criminal elements of this LAN, because at this LAN it wasn't just Akuma who beat Na'Vi. Entropic for the first time did, and so sadly, I think a lot of people until we got to the major thought Entropic were like in that mix of like, oh, I've never heard of them, so are they cheaters as well? Or like, no, sadly, that actually was a legit team on its rise, but it sort of got like some of its shine taken away by Akuma because it made everyone think, oh, those results were all bunk and we forgot about it. It's only now that we sort of give them credit. So no, that tournament should be a fucking black mark on CS. If you remember, they had to have an extra RMR in the CIS region to make up for the fucking tournament, whether it happened or not. So again, like, that's not a fucking good look, is it?
Yeah. I only caught on to the drama of that event because I was accused. This event was where I don't know if you guys got this as well.
Right at the end of your coaching gig, right? This was right at the end.
I had like my coaching gig that ended in like April or May, but I did like a 2-month like fucking Batman Begins. I just disappeared for like, I deleted like all social media for like 2 months. But the only reason I saw this one is because I was on my laptop and logged into Twitter, and I was getting a bunch of abuse from Brazilians calling me racist because I did not speak out against the cheating accusations the way I did when they accused Grim or the Leaf and Zeppa of cheating, not Grim. That was, I came out of Twitter and I was like, holy shit! I was like, what's happening now? So
what's Duncan tweeting now? No, wait, it's not Duncan. This time it's angry Brazilian esports.
It is Russians who have caused me distress of all the things as an American to do such a thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, that event is just a disgrace. And the one good thing I will say is, for once, the community sort of, like, it definitely helped it happened against Na'Vi. I think if it had been any other team, know, in any other region, they would have skated on it. But, you know, while there was absolutely zero evidence of any illicit wrongdoing apart from like 2 clips are sort of a bit questionable with Leaf and Zeppa, 1 each. You know, this was a raft of evidence and stuff that just didn't make sense. You didn't need to be world beaters to beat a washed up fucking MIBR. You just needed to be half decent. You certainly need to be world beaters to not only beat Na'Vi, but dominate and put Simple in the fucking hurt locker. Akuma don't have that. They for me, 100%, it's obvious they cheated.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the games, so I won't go that far. But I'll just say I liked how the orgs handled the event, and I think what sucks about it is there wasn't any actual conclusion or resolution, because this is how these things should be dealt with, is the organizations coming together and saying, look, this was an obvious weird fucking situation. Can we get someone to look into it? We believe there was cheating going on. Please address the issue. And like they wrote the letter to the TO and I would assume to Valve as well, versus, you know, the situation with MIBR where it was just a witch hunt on Twitter and a streamer bringing in former pros to completely drag a 16-year-old kid. But, you know, I think if they're going to go the right right avenue and actually, submit a complaint and say, please, Valve or somebody look into this more, that should be rewarded. Something should be done. It sucks.
I think the way all legal matters should be settled is with Gowles as the arbiter of justice. I think that's perfect. Let's do it that way. Right, best event of the year.
Blast Fall Finals.
It has to be the major for that, surely.
Ooh.
Because here's the problem.
I like this King Solomon here.
What's going to be good is when we have this discussion, I'm guessing Moses is thinking more of things like production, like the sheen of the event, or the crowd as well. You add these things. The problem is the major, just as an actual tournament, was easily the most important. It also had like some great storylines. Here's the issue I think with the major is, one, I wasn't at home watching it, so I can't really know how bad like the tech issues for fans were. As far as I can tell, people weren't really that annoyed.
Once we got to the arena.
Once we got past the Swiss system, they seemed to quiet down about like tech problems. So the problem is, Moses, I personally just tried to discount my own experience. And I know there was tons of problems behind the scenes, but I know a lot of that didn't actually show on camera. So can Blast really beat a major for that though?
I mean, just to that point, by the way, the tech, because I was talking to people who were watching it from home, like real time, to try and identify the problems when we were at the major. Because obviously, I'm talking to the fucking what people again don't realize. We did say it in our green room edition. Was the guy who was directing us on the desk was also essentially live producing. Basically, he was doing the jobs of like 3 people, and this was where a lot of the shit was going wrong, because if there was one problem with like a fucked up graphic or fucked up audio or something like that, he had to scramble to fix it. And if he got 2 problems at once, well, how do you do 3 jobs and solve 2 problems? Like, who the fuck, you've got to be like some fucking mega mind. So
also, yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say, so as far as I'm aware, basically it was the penultimate day of the major where we had a smooth broadcast. And considering it's like 2 weeks, I was
going to say,
yeah, it's not good enough.
I was getting complaints about sound issues at the major until I did the semifinal with Semler. That was the first game I did that didn't have complaints about sound. But even beyond that, I think maybe there's a little bit of a problem where I hold the major to a much higher standard and it didn't meet it. But like, I don't know, the lack of real content around the major, the lack of like even being able to see the players until the complaining, like none of the issues got fixed until like the complaining hit like a fever pitch. I think when you look at how the major was done, I feel like between the tech issues and the lack of content, I have to imagine as a viewer, you got pulled out of like kind of the experience of being in that arena. And I watched Blast from home. Like I didn't even work the event.
Okay, right, yeah, sure.
And I know that even just watching it, I was like, holy shit! Like they do such a good job of making you feel like you're in the environment. All their shots of the analyst desk is the analyst desk in the arena. In the background, you hear the crowd cheering. You hear the crowd going wild for whatever stupid shit they're doing on the desk. And as a viewer, you just feel submerged inside the arena with everyone else. And I don't think there's any other TO who can pull that off the same way that Blast does. So for me, I felt, and yeah, this is unfair because I worked the major, and as I said, it was already personally the worst event of the year for me. Watching the fall finals from Blast was like, I was like, holy fucking shit, this is epic as fuck. Like I really did get that feeling.
Can I give you a counterpoint, co-host of counterpoints?
Absolutely, I would love that.
That crowd was cheating and potentially influenced one of the biggest matches of the tournament.
Yeah, that part hurts. Obviously,
that's a bother for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm actually with you. Here's the saddest thing. I actually think if the crowd thing hadn't happened, by a lot of the metrics of what makes a good event, Blast might actually win with all the problems the major had.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me, and I think it underlines a problem. Like, spoiler, Jason, I recorded an episode of Snake and Banter, Duncan's 104th podcast series
this week.
That he has, and I recorded an episode of that this morning.
It's not prolific enough, Duncan.
Yeah, exactly, man.
No problem.
Rolling 105, I say. But anyway, and we already talked about this. I think, unfortunately, the fact that they're the contenders for best event of the year when they were so poor for different reasons is sort of indicative of where we're at, just in terms of the overall quality of events. Like, I know you can't say too much about this, Jason, so I won't dump.
It's all coming up by any chance?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Right. I'm just guessing it, just a guess.
Jason wants sweet 80% of the calendar.
Here we go.
So no, the reality is, I think the ESL broadcast looks really cheap. These days, and sure, they've had to pivot to virtual studios and all that. I love it when you do that, Duncan. That's
right. They'll never know.
The shit we were talking about off air. Perfect. Why not? So I think it doesn't have that same sheen, that same quality. I think it's carried by the talent they have on their broadcasts. And then you look, and that's 80% of the calendar, and we all agree Blast and WePlay are the people that are pushing production. But then WePlay's academy, so it doesn't have the teams and it doesn't get the viewership. And then Blast, obviously, the quality's fine, but then you get to they could have blew the major out of the park, and in terms of production and doing live event production in particular, they did. But then I'm like you, how can I say the best event of the year was one with a dog shit crowd? Like, literally, it's like they just assembled a room full of cunts and said, hey, I've had it, like, cheat. Let's get Astralis over the fucking finish line. They couldn't even do that. It was just gross. I didn't like it at all. So I can't say that's the best event of the year, and I can't pick the major. I'm just going to say there was no good event this year. It was shit. There you go, I'm opting out.
Right, well, I was going to say, even coming into this...
It's no good events last year, guys. Close CS down. Shut it down.
Any online event could win this. The online events just all sucked. Yeah. I don't know. It's rough out there at the moment in Counterstrike production, especially during
on these streets, making all that money.
No, but I mean, it is frustrating working in production, especially with the past 2 years, the way that things were already a little bit lean and already scaling back, and then pandemic hits and you have everyone in money saving mode. And I think that's kind of why I still kind of appreciate Blast is still finding ways to innovate. Like the player walk-ins at that event were fucking sick. They were so cool.
Yeah, they were so
cool to watch.
They were really, really good.
I think Blast does so many good things to create the environment necessary to make awesome moments. They just get to play a little bit of a different game, though, right? Because they still get to run off investment money. Versus
Here's what I'll do then, and then we'll have to throw it over to Judge Sam to pick, because I think we've all picked different ones. Moses Blast, Duncan's Major. I'm going to say it's the WePlay Academy one, and I'll tell you why. I do remember when I went to watch season 1, I think it was. I just turned it on one day, and literally as I turned it on the stream, there was they'd done a VR, Sims version of Harry, and he was riding like a giant rooster, and Harry was just going, I'm riding a cock, Hugo, I'm riding a cock. I've always wanted to try it, and now I'm riding a cock. It's like literally the first thing I saw.
I love it. I love cock. Everything cock.
I wish I had the clip. So there you go. That's just better than anything that ever happened at the Major or Blast right there.
I always wondered how Harry got all those ESL gigs. Well, never mind anyway. So. It's by the by, isn't it? So don't worry about it. So
that's not bad.
You will have to cast the deciding vote.
The major production was shit and the crowd cheated. Those are the two main upsets, really. I am tempted to go with WePlay, but there's just no teams there. Like, if we went just on the organizer, WePlay is sick. I love watching their events. They're always doing new stuff. But I guess I'll have to go with Blast. Because it was after the major, it proved like how much better it could have been. I mean, the crowd cheating was a bit of a bullshit turn, but it wasn't exactly the tournament's fault.
I'm just going to say it, when the host has to literally plead and go, come on, you freaks. It's like,
that's what it is about that. Can you imagine, by the way, if that was me and I went, you fucking freaks, how dare you? By the way, I don't even agree with Alex on this. I'm of the opinion.
I don't either.
If you want to boo, you paid your money, boo. At least you're engaged. That's where I'm at. And so I'm never going to say, if you boo a player during an interview, is it polite? No. Do you have to be polite? No. As long as you're not pelting them with rotting fruit or something like that.
As soon as they're on the stage, they're fair game. Boo everything everything you got.
Agreed. Completely agreed. But here's
no throwing bodily harm at anyone. But wreck them.
If I called a crowd of people booing a player, you fucking freaks. Front page Reddit post, Richard Lewis should be fired. He called the paying members of the community freaks. He's always done this. And he blocked me on Twitter. It would just be that, 5,000 comments like that and people calling for a job I don't even have because I'm freelance. So, but because it's Alex and he's super popular and everyone loves him, He basically got to call a crowd of people freaks, and everyone was like, the best part about that is he was legitimately annoyed. Like, people think it was like some planned, scripted thing he wanted to do. No, it was because obviously when you're at an event, and the crowd's just acting like cunts the entire time. I mean, I remember, what was that event where someone like threw a fucking Mars bar at Henry or something?
It was like, maybe it was PGL.
No, it was DreamHack Open Bucharest. DreamHack Open Bucharest. Because that's why DreamHack started having that shit soundproof booth that they would lock us in when we were passing games.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, you do get pissed off when the crowd's, you know, a bunch of arseholes. So yeah, that was Alex just legitimately.
That event did low-key have one of my favourite moments of the year, though, which was the moment where before the now infamous match, in which I'm almost certain the crowd was essentially the sixth man for Astralis and destroyed the mental frame of Heroic, one of the best teams in the world. It was that interview that Cadian did before they began the game. Do you remember, Moses? Where I can't remember if it was Machine or Frey or something. Like, he asks him like, "Oh, what do you think, Cadian? Like, the crowd's going to probably be cheering for Astralis, right?" And he goes, "Nah, I think it'll be maybe 40, 60. I've seen a lot of Heroic jerseys around here." And then the joke is in the game, like, they were only cheating for Astralis, and then if Heroic did anything good, they just stayed silent the whole time. It's like, oh man, that's such an amazing self-own. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
I don't know. You guys might not remember this. I think it was the 2020 or 2019 holiday show we did. One of the questions, one of the best of the years was who's the worst fans in esports? I said the Danish fans. I said the Danish fans because even
Udin's thing, yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, and also because even the first event we did in Copenhagen for Blast is Danish fans, for whatever reason, they fucking love Astralis. They go absolutely wild for Astralis. But anyone other than Astralis,
do you remember? They didn't even really care about North. You remember? Yeah,
they didn't give a fuck about North. That was, remember, that first event we did was they had the 3 games going on at the same time. Yes. On the main screen, the giant screen in the arena was the North game. Yep. The Astralis game was on a tiny little monitor on the side.
Stage for real. Watching that.
And the cheers were for Astralis on the tiny screen, and the casters broadcasting the North game on the giant screen were so confused the whole game. They're like, "Why the fuck are people cheering? I don't get it." The audience wasn't watching anyone but Astralis. And that was my issue with the Danish fans, was just too much quiet and no energy when one team isn't playing the game. And I mean, I hate to say it, but I do sincerely hope, because I know there's a push for this, I hope Denmark never gets a major. I hope there's never a major. I hope there's not a major in Copenhagen.
Moses has turned up, Duncan. He's here.
Here's what I like is that Moses this year has actually started to turn the heat up a little bit. He did 2 comments this year already. One was where he actually just did that. HLTV confirmed. He said the most edgy thing anyone's ever actually said on that show. What, an opinion, Thorin? No, that's a separate joke. No, he went on there and he said right before the major as well that Valve should just. He said they should just not allow them to play the major, all the Heroic players, and he just threw that as though it was like, yeah, it's just a normal opinion. Let's float that down the river. By the way, no one else was even going that far.
Nobody questioned it.
Hardest opinions, and then now you're just going, I just don't think Denmark should ever be allowed a world championship.
Not ever. We can revisit the situation a year from now, but like obviously, like look, I mean, we now have an event. An event in Copenhagen where the crowd may or may not have been cheating, but other than that, I don't think there were a particularly exciting crowd outside of Astralis games. So what happens if the final is Navi versus?
Here's the caveat, Jason. We can have a major if Astralis aren't at it.
That's a good angle. Here's the big question, Moses. When you were at the major, did you not feel awkward when you met Heroic players? Because you must not watch that show. I'm sure they do.
The only time I ran into a Heroic player was Cadian, and I think it was, I forget who the other one was. I think it was Tess's, when we were drunk at the end of the after party. And look, Cadian's a legit guy. Like we fucking shook hands, and I said, "Congratulations, you did a great job." I actually really like Heroic. I actually think they're a fun team to follow, and on some level, I root for them to overcome all the adversity. But come on, like, dude, the fact that there wasn't even a slap on the wrist. We have built a scene where we have entrusted organizations like the ESLs and like the Blasts and the TOs to protect competitive integrity. We have ESIC, which we have entrusted to be directly involved with integrity. And then we have the CSPPA, whose entire goal is to police like the environment that their players have to play in. And we have Valve
exclusive with the whims of ESL.
And for whatever reason, between these 5 organizations that are supposed to be the safeguard of the integrity of the Counterstrike scene, not a single one of them even slapped Heroic on the wrist, and no one said, listen, guys, we're gonna have to dock like 30% of your prize money that you win at the major because of these scams. No one even cared. Nobody, not a slap on the wrist is what's so mental to me about the whole thing. Not even a warning shot.
Such is life, Jason. Now you will know why I am such a miserable, jaded cunt. So there you go. Anyway,
I know. Anyways,
thank you, Sam.
Best personality of the year.
Yeah. No. Yes. That's my job, Jason. How dare you? Just like E-League again, stepping on my toes. Right. Yeah. Best personality of the year.
Rolling over them in a wheelchair.
Moses. Yeah. The fucking wheel.
I'll give that one to you.
My wheelchair is still the funniest shit you've ever said in your life, mate.
I actually think this is a hard one, though, because if you think about it, the another thing what happened with the hybrid circuit is you had way smaller talent crews, and so there's not that many names would even probably be eligible for this. Like, I'm thinking of the top ends, probably only like 5 or 6 people could even say they did enough events.
Yeah, this is always a weird one because personality obviously is so broad. You know, it can sort of apply to anyone, you know. It can be...
There we go. Hunden is the best personality.
No, I've got him down for sneakiest.
Oh, there we go. My bad. There we go.
Yeah, that comes later. Yeah.
Is there anyone serious? Is there actually anyone who I can think of who would stand out for? I feel like I could name one. Isn't Maniac just the winner just for being sort of consistently really good?
Well, are
doing all the events? You know,
if you go on-screen talent, I think Maniac certainly had a blow-up year.
You're going to go with a player?
Really popped out. I would have gone with Flom. To be honest with you,
I think he was alive until you just said that. Right, at least right, congrats, Flom, for making it in 2022, mate. I thought you had died in like 2018 or something.
No, but I mean, I think one of the few permanent Counter-Strike streamers. I know he's also started a little bit of like a streamer, a streamer like show match kind of thing, or like like a little bit of a pug team with some of the other players and some of the other like streamers.
Does he still play competitively? By the way, I used to like stream the matches when him and Davey were.
I think he plays in like ESA Premier, so he's like in the competitive structure, but I don't think they're not like super competitor. I know he's doing the iBuyPower League, so I think Flom for me, and maybe you don't see him if you're not part of the NA scene in any way, but I think Flom is probably doing more than all the TOs combined to revitalize Counter-Strike in North America. So for me, I think I'd give him a shout out at least.
Yeah, Eric's a top boy, obviously. You know, we have him on No Mids Club all the time. Good lad. For me, you know, I could be tempted to say maybe Sponge. Because I feel that even though he is
a good shout,
even though I do feel, you know, on the downside, massive ESL shill, of course, but on the upside, carries the HLTV Confirmed podcast. There's no getting away from that. Like, if you take him out of the equation, you know, it wouldn't have that energy, and it would just be something you watch for the guest, essentially. Chad really holds that together. He's proven himself as, you know, he's been the best analyst in the world. He then segued into being a commentator, a colour commentator. He's, you know, they're the best pairing right now. So, you know, like, not many people get to the top of, like, 2 areas, and on top of that, as I said, I think he's
he's been a good player.
Yeah,
I know. Done all 3.
I know. Who knows? Could have had the trifecta. Maybe next life.
Exactly.
Maybe next life.
When's he gonna go coach?
No,
that'll happen eventually. I think that'll happen eventually.
He really wanted to do it, bro. I don't even know if I'm talking out of school here. I certainly hope not. I think he's tweeted about it.
I think I don't think he will.
But I think basically when people thought JKS was going to re-hook up with the Extremum guys, I think he wanted to go do that.
If you remember, in 2020, there was a period of time where he sort of implied, I think it was maybe around the time Henry stopped or something. It was sort of implied, if you remember, Richard, he did like a weird tweet, Sponge did, where it was sort of like that. It was almost sort of like maybe he would consider like other gigs or something, or moving outside. I think it was basically implied maybe he was open for coaching gigs. I think that did happen like 2 years ago.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, I think it was mostly just a little bit of a joke.
Fair enough. Okay.
But I can't be sure. Maybe it's true. I've never gotten that impression of him. I think after the stories he's heard from Yanko and he wouldn't touch it with the 10-foot pole.
Yeah, maybe not now. But I think Sponge is a good shout. So we got Sponge, we got Flom. Who did you say, Duncan? Maniac, yeah. Go on then, Sam. We need you again.
Ooh.
Flom. Spoiler, if you can't remember them, they can't be the best.
I was going to say, that's not a good start.
It's between Sponge and Maniac. No, obviously you can pick Flom if you want.
I'll go with Sponge. I think Sponge takes it.
Nice try, Jason. I'll win that one. Right? No.
Must be nice.
Duncan's just making a mental note. Sam is never agreeing with me.
That's how it works.
Give him the next one, Sam, for fuck's sake. I don't want to get
Listen, I'm not a petty person, but I do have a good memory. So all I'm going to tell you is, if I ever walk in a room and you're ODing, it'll be like Breaking Bad, mate. I'll just stand there and watch it and just go, well, maybe if he'd agreed with me, I'd agree with you living. And then
Sponge best personality. Out. Maybe Sponge can save you. Maybe Sponge will come in.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe he'll just come in and give you life mouth to mouth.
The good news is there is no drug that can kill Sam. So just all one fluffy, friendly joke between mates. Anyway, all still mates. Best newcomer talent. So this is obviously broadcast talent. The best person in 2021 who emerged. This is obviously a little bit difficult because there will be some contenders that obviously have been around for maybe years. So I will extend. They can have a breakout year, I would say, to be newcomers.
The problem with this is, I will say at the beginning an obvious caveat, which is I am incredibly biased because I essentially put this person on. Maui Snake has to be on the list at least, right? Remember, he did do a blast event, he did the flashpoints, he's done DreamHacks. Like, again, we're talking about a pretty small category here, remember, guys. There's not many like new talents have come on air. So even though he did like some stuff in 2020, I think 2021 he's just taken another step. And I would expect this year is when you see him on even more of the tier 1 events. I think one of the things I was very impressed is one of the reasons why even when I was bringing him to the first event, it was a slam dunk. I knew it was going to work. Is because I've very rarely ever seen anyone that was as polished right out the box. Like, look, he still had to like learn, like the pattern of how you do things and what you do when there's an issue. But like, mate, if you go back and watch the first event I did, Epicenter with him, remember he has no fucking experience. It's outrageous how like he just immediately adapted. So I would say he's got to be a contender. Who else is even in the mix though? Like, there's
I don't know. I was trying to think the same thing because I was going to say Maui as well, and I saw a bunch in chat saying Harry and Hugo, which is like I don't consider them like newcomer talent. Same with Launders and Scrawny. I don't consider them new talent as well.
Maybe her because she started doing desk stuff more this year, right?
Yeah, I mean Freya's really expanded her repertoire. And done really good. I think the thing that makes me kind of sad is like
tired. I will say
you see a lot of people that. That they start the journey and then they like get off. Like, like Potter, for example's gone over to Valorant.
This could have been
it could have been her year for real because, I thought she did great work at Flashpoint, especially in all the little skits and stuff that got to show her more quirky personality. And then obviously she's not here this year because she's doing something else, and that's kind of sad. So, Maui's definitely a front runner. I mean, what do we think of that, Alan?
I'm trying to think how close this is. Remember, I've just remembered this. There was one of these year-end ones we did like 2 or 3 years ago. This would have been perfect, Richard, because if you remember, Moses actually did pick Potter on that one as like most improved.
Maui at that one,
and I actually flamed him because at the time, I don't think Maui was around back then, but I flamed you back then because I was like, "Oh, come on, mate, she did like a blast and she's not that good yet, whatever." Because the problem is, she actually like she was way more raw back then. I actually would have picked her maybe for this year. That would have been a nice little fucking common. Full circle or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the Flashpoint kind of like breeding ground in terms of like giving people a chance to really cut their teeth and find their personality. That's why it's a shame. I don't know what Flashpoint's doing. I sort of get a sense in a way
surely they're dead.
That it's dead.
Surely they're not doing anything.
I mean, that's my read on it as well. I can't imagine they'd want to, do another event, especially in the current climate. And their
founding members don't even have teams. Like there's a big problem there.
As an outsider who knows a little bit, I won't claim to know what they're doing. I have like a sense. My vibe is this. The big one you want to watch is just keep your eye on Cloud9. Cloud9 basically is what was it called in Lord of the Rings, Richard, when they light those like things on fire? It's like those like smoke signals.
The beacons of Minas Tirith.
Oh, the beacons. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Cloud9 is basically the beacon you're watching. Because if Cloud9 gets a CSGO team, then I think there's the impetus where they might do another event. If Cloud9 doesn't have a CSGO team, I know the sort of people who actually care in that org. There's only like MIBR who barely have a team, and like you know what I mean. Like you run out of names immediately of the big org. Envy isn't around. Gen G's irrelevant. So I think if Cloud9 comes back, maybe they do another tournament. That's the one to watch for, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so look, the reality is like, so I see people obviously are suggesting as well, like, I'd say Alan Hender made good headway this year.
Didn't do that many events, but fair play. Yeah,
exactly. I don't think he did enough events to sort of get it. I know people obviously are suggesting Hawker as well. My problem with Hawker is I don't think he's a particularly memorable guy, like in terms of what you know what I mean? He's like, he's good. He's got the skill set. But I need motherfuckers to have personality as well.
He's still finding his voice, mate.
Yeah, exactly. The great thing about esports broadcasting is it's essentially a blank canvas. You can let aspects of yourself that you're never going to get in a more stuffy, traditional sports or entertainment package. You can actually bring little fucked up quirks of your personality to life, and I don't think he's found his yet. So while I think he's good, not to take it away from him, work to be done there. So the thing, if Maui, by the way, can just give it an extra sort of 10% in terms of being a bit more bombastic in his personality, a bit bolder, a bit more forthright in his delivery, like, even Moses gives more controversial opinions than this motherfucker. If he can just take it up, he doesn't have to go full Thorin, never do that. We've got a Thorin. We don't need another Thorin. But like if you can just dial it up a little bit, I think Maui could like in 2022 be like. I think he could have a massive year for sure. So I'm happy giving it to him this year.
It's actually that's why he's my. I mean, I don't know. It all depends again on like I think if we're gonna consider Freya newcomer talent, which again I don't, then I think Freya wins it.
I mean, listen, if the argument is, because she's obviously doing multiple jobs now, stage host, desk host, as well as.
Yeah, but she did the Face It major in 2017. She's been in a handful of events since then.
That's what I mean. I almost feel it's insulting to give her like newcomer talent of the year because she's established.
For me, it has to be Maui, and I think just as Duncan said, he's impressed with how polished he is right out of the gates. I'm just impressed, oddly enough, as you two have cracked a couple of jokes on unfairly, in my opinion. But I do think that he is someone who, out of the gates, is not afraid to give an opinion on something that could be not controversial, but that goes against like kind of standard thinking about a player or about a team, and he'll back it up. So I think that's a really good quality to have for someone coming out.
Moses was pretty good, Richard. Like he adapted really quickly from being an average coach to being an analyst, like immediately. It's almost like he like a duck to water.
You didn't even do the fucking joke. You went from being an average coach to being a slightly above average analyst.
Should have done
that. That's what I would. If I was
doing my career in steps,
yeah, exactly. You'll get there one day, Jason. You will get there. I believe in you.
What's changed about me, Richard, now is I've realised every now and then you have to leave them some shred of dignity. You can't constantly take it all, because I've actually learned people have actually resent that. Because here's the problem I realised. I was doing that thing when I was going.
You surely do.
Still all mates, all had drinks now. I was realising it's just me only ever mainly roasting people. Like there's not a lot of them.
Yep.
I probably should give a bit of leeway.
And you're the one. Well, we're all still mates, and of course, by that point, not all still mates.
Not mates at all.
Actually, some people have caught feelings big time. So
2021 was the year. Was the end of the we're still all mates. The whole saga. That chapter of life is gone.
Nobody can even tell that lie anymore.
No.
At least in E-League, it was true.
True.
At E-League, it was very true. It's no longer true. We cannot keep up this shirt anymore. It's not true.
That's what the major was badass.
Not all mates.
Until about like the last week, because the point that was the last time. It was almost like going back in time in a time machine half a decade. Like we actually did get the old green room environment, which will never exist again.
Oh, that was so much fun. That first week of that major was so much fucking fun. Holy shit!
Wasn't it?
At times, this is how you know you were back in 2015, Moses.
I had such a good time.
Go and do a game, or you'd walk in the room, and again, the out of context things you'd hear. That just like you were like, fucking hell, what am I? I just walked in and heard that, like, it was amazing.
Yeah, no, that week was really good for sure.
This major was the first time in like probably since like E-League Boston or something that I actually like came to the green room hours before my call time and stayed in the green room hours after my call time. I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna sit in here this fucking stand-up session. That was funny as fuck. I was dying.
It was really good, and even with the drama and stuff that
actually, in some ways, didn't it? We got raw as fuck though.
Yeah.
You remember, Duncan? You remember how you asked me if it was awkward seeing the heroic guys after I'd said that on HLTV Confirmed? Well, the funny thing is, 2 days before the blow up, the situation occurred. Bardolph messaged me on WhatsApp to play 2-on-2 ping pong versus the heroic guys. because he knows I've dabbled in ping pong, and I was like, listen, James, this might not be the best idea for me, considering I did say they should all get banned and disqualified from the major. I don't know if they'd appreciate playing 2-on-2 table tennis with me. Maybe you have to find a new partner.
The only way that story would be better is if the plan had been that you were going to play the 2v2 match right after Bardolph did his big semi-final. And then he was like, the worst thing is, you just messaged him on that day like, so is the ping pong?
Yeah, are we still going to play ping pong?
Look, it's in my calendar. I'm a very diligent guy. I'm a stickler, you know. I'll turn up. Is it on, James? Is the game?
I'm down at the table. Where is everybody?
Is the game with you as my partner who hates me and has just been in a really awkward scenario involving partners against the two players I said shouldn't be allowed to play at this World Championship? Is that game still on? It sounds fun. I want to relieve a bit of stress.
Episode of fucking Curb Your Enthusiasm. Jason's like, you know what I mean? Right. So that was an easy one. We're all in agreement. Maui Snake there. So best newcomer player. Unfortunately, this is another easy one, right? Because it's Bit, I suppose you would consider.
Is it?
It's Bit.
Wait a minute. Who did you all just put in the category for number 2 in the world?
Well, Shiro.
He hadn't played at tier 1 until this year.
No, but I mean, yeah, this is what we get into. This is interesting. I would have liked to have got your input around some of the, because I ran into similar stuff when we were doing the esports awards, like Rookie of the Year. Who's a rookie? What's a rookie?
Exactly. Let's define it.
Yeah. So
wait. Before we continue, are we really entertaining this? Like, I'm fine to have the conversation to give Shiro a nice little shout out to a nice year, but there's no way you put him above Bit. There's no way.
Over the year, he's a better player than Bit. Do you want a stat? Are you ready for one?
Holy fuck.
Because here's the thing, Moses, I come with stats, mate. Right? In the first...
Says the guy who earlier was like, all these shit analysts and their stats, nobody's losing the eye test anymore. Here he is, dunking with stats.
3 months of 2021, Shiro played something like 62 maps. Bit played 11. That was a fourth of the year, mate.
I'll give a fuck.
There you go. There's a fourth of the year burned already. Then you have Shiro getting all those MVPs win online. Listen, online.
I got another stat. He's the highest earning rookie of all time. He broke the fucking headshot percentage number, the record. He's won a major in his rookie year. He's won over 1 million his rookie year. He is the key that has unlocked the entire Navi era that we're now discussing. Like the guy's a monster. Like I think his accomplishments alone. That's how much better he was. Is the last 9 months of the year he wins hands down.
There's another thing people get wrong. Even go and look at the numbers. He only becomes a monster around Cologne, dude. That's when the stats go crazy. Cologne is in what?
Yeah, it was the Starladder RMR online that he popped off. That was right before Cologne.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's
you and I were working that event.
Listen, again, it's a count LAN. If you count LAN more, by the way, obviously he wins, doesn't he? Like, I'm saying if you do the whole year, you have to at least put Shiro in the conversation. Again, this is depending on whether Richard says a count slot. Because my problem goes like this, and I'm serious when I say this. If people say Shiro can't even, like, he doesn't even qualify as, and he was like already a pro, well then Siwu doesn't get to be rookie in 2019 because Siwu was on tier 2 with fucking and tier 3 with against All Authority. So when you cut it off, because to me, Shiro wasn't a relevant tier 1, but he wasn't in tier 1 as far as I'm concerned the year before. It was 2021. So it's just about how you value him and Bit to me.
Yeah. For me, I think Shiro doing so good online and then having the year he did on LAN, I think it puts him in the conversation. But I think it would be so difficult for me, even with only 9 months of the year and even only 6 months of those really clicking, Bit's accomplishments with Navi and Bit's performances as an individual are just so crazy for me.
Yeah, it's like, for me, I sort of get the argument, but also what I will say is Bit was an absolute fucking monster. All the arguments we made about Nico being a monster at the major, and therefore that's why he gets number 2. Bit was a monster at the major as well, at a LAN environment. Shiro, not so much. And when you think about it, Shiro's like the Opry. He's meant to be like this, mega superstar. And they won like 6 or 7 tournaments over the course of the year. Loads of stuff to talk about there for real. Like, Shiro's obviously in the conversation if we consider him a newcomer. But what Bit did is unprecedented. Higher fucking headshot percentage than Scream at a LAN tournament, right? I mean, he's not supposed to. Who the fuck's this guy?
By the way, I do think that stat is a little bit... is a little bit overrated because I don't think it actually. I don't know why.
Well, no, gives a fuck. I just
really
like it
impressed me.
took
It's like a style
screen,
stat. Yeah.
So I don't have to hear about fucking headshot machine anymore in fucking 2021 as if it would be fucking relevant, right? So I'm just bringing that up for my own petty reasons, as always.
But by the way, yeah, go on.
No.
Take it away. I was gonna say I love having the conversation around Shiro. I think also, I mean, I think also you could throw. Chat said Yekindar. I mean that's not a bad shout.
Yeah, it's not a bad shout. Yeah,
especially for someone who's kind of like come into his career.
There's another good eye test player as well. Impact's fucking mental.
Well, what I love about Yakindar's story is the way that he basically fucking long-dicked everyone who said he was an onliner and a fucking cheater and you can't even play entry frag styling like that. He was one of the people who, by the way, in the online era, got to a fucking LAN and, if anything, looked better. You know, he was, like the Gambit players should take fucking notice. And also, as well, great kid. Like, just a guy who's got his fucking head screwed on, understands the media aspect of it. Huge part of why Virtus Pro are competitively relevant on top of that, because he does things that very few other players can, except, bizarrely, Roy, just at the end of the year for no reason.
By the way, here's the other thing. If we're looking at all the roles, by the way, there's another angle, right? Think about all of them, right? If you compare Shiro and Bit, then you have all these other discussions of like, well, Shiro is the star of his team, whereas like simple players who are Bit, you can do all that stuff back and forth. This is what I would say for Yakindar. Yakindar of the three plays the hardest roles, in my opinion. Like, he is the fucking hard entry, like old school style.
Old school entry.
Especially at the beginning of 2021, he used to just literally run out on his own through maybe a smoke if he got anything, and he would have to kill the first two people, or VP might not even win this round. Like, it was ridiculous. So I think, I don't even care if his stats are lower. Eye test tells me that guy was mega impactful.
Also, he had 4 teams that were allergic to doing anything on the map until 30 seconds were left in the round. So shout out to Yekindar.
Yes.
Also, that roster change they had towards the end of the year, I think they're going to be a really cool team for next year. That's a squad we didn't put in that list early on, but VP add him in there. I think that's going to be a dangerous squad.
It's my problem. I'll the problem bring it for back to what I said earlier, and this is the issue. Logically, how can we not have Bit higher than Shiro in like Player of the Year if he's the best Rookie of the Year?
Well,
how can you win Rookie of the Year and then someone else is a better player than you that year? Which is it?
Because you have Nico.
Nico got number 2.
Yeah, so, we put Nico at number 2.
If you want to make an argument for Bit being number 3 player, I can fuck with it.
Nah, no way. I think sample size would be too small, mate. I'm telling you.
That's what I'm saying. So what?
Yeah. Listen, we're doing this off the top of our head.
I agree. We're not actually scientists here. We're just coming up with
so I don't know. Listen, it can go to Shiro, it can go to Bit. If you want to split the difference, I'm also happy to give it to Yakindar. I don't give a fuck.
Also, I've duct taped my beer.
Choices.
As if I need to hide sponsors on your fucking show.
No, you don't, man. You don't. You can keep drinking. I wish I'd got one.
Shout out to Coors Banquet.
Let's make Sam pick again. Although that has now just become Sam's thing.
Sam's review with you. You're just doing it so you goes with you can.
Let's see. Sam's a very shrewd, wise judge who doesn't always go one side in a biased way. So I want to know who he thinks would be the Rookie of the Year.
Mate. It's going to happen again, but Bit did win a major. Like, that kind of pushes over the edge. I'm going to have to go a Bit. I'm going to have to go a Bit.
No surprises there.
Yep, nice one. You've always been loyal as fuck, you Sam. loyal as fuck. Right.
Human rights. What about you, Sam? What do you think?
So, right, best in-game leader of the year now.
Existence.
Exactly. Obviously, bringing it.
Didn't lose a map on land.
He's still going to get this major. He's still going to get it. Still going to get it.
Do you want to know something sad? If it wasn't for the fact that now it would just be beyond a meme. I thought about doing one of those tweets when no one knew technically if Shocks was going liquid and going like Shocks, Kenny S, Existence, NBK, but then I realised it would just become a meme, wouldn't it? So I didn't bother doing it. Yeah. I thought it though. I thought it in my mind.
That's a fucking story.
Wait, this is actually another really tough one, by the way.
Yeah,
because I hate this one.
Here's the funny thing. I'm just going to say it at the top, and this is actually, if you think about, if you count stats and you count resume, if you count all those factors, right? Logically, Boomich has to be in the conversation. But I've got to tell you, I don't even consider him for this one. I know it makes me sound like a hater, but I do not even think he is a contender for this, in my opinion. I think it has to be like Nafani's one, obviously fucking. Let me think. I think Apex has to be in the mix. There's 2. Who would my third one maybe be? Cadian's a good one. Is there a fourth?
We picked
pretty good.
Basically, just to outline it, because I know me and Duncan are aligned on this one, and that is that, my suspicion is that when Zeus picked Boomich, he was trying to do a fucking Alex Ferguson style fuck around. I get to pick my replacement, and then obviously I must stick around and groom said replace. It's just a way to stick around and outlast your welcome. And I don't think Boomich was ever a real sort of genuine contender for like big in-game leader that you're bringing into a team in Navi's caliber. Basically, between Blade and Simple, they're the real leaders in that team, in my opinion.
That's the problem with Navi is you don't even talk about Boomich until you cover literally all other 5 people on the team, including Blade, which isn't meant to be a dig on Boomich in any way. But like if you look over at Astralis with the star-studded lineup that they had when they were the best in the world in 2019. Glaive was like one of the first people you mentioned. You got Dupree, you got Device, you got Magus next to him as well. You got Zonic as a huge coach, and you still had Glaive's name up front. I don't know this IGL of the year because we did it at Blast as well. It's weird. I don't think there's any really good pick, and I think there's a number of arguments you could make. We picked Apex. I like Cadian as
say because the problem is, listen, if we're doing LAN again for LAN, he was doing a fucking amazing job with the team he had. My problem is again online, like is a relevant one. Like I know it was his first year doing the role. Well, I know he did it yesterday. He did it last year. No, sorry, second year.
I think this is probably one of the only roles where I think you could. Yeah, you could pick like 4 different people and have a good argument for why each of them could win it. And Nathani's obviously good. Yeah. I would like on an individual level, I would say Cadian, just because I really respect and admire the way that he kept that team together. He's obviously very much the emotional focal point of that team. And obviously a team that was never expected to be in the top 5, much less win events and make it to number 1 in the world at one point. So, I think for me, I'd go with Cadian on a personal level.
For me, I think it's got to be Nafani. He definitely made some mistakes. He definitely didn't handle the media side of being an in-game leader particularly well.
He had some odd answers, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, like, they need to work on their interview technique. Although I will add, at least it's not some sort of self-aggrandizing, drama-seeking Na'Vi bullshit, like, which is fair enough. So at least they were different in that regard. But, he's 20 years old, which he's probably the youngest person in contention for this. He won, like I say, 6 or 7 tournaments. I can't remember how many it was over the course of the year. I know they were online. I know they didn't look as good at LAN. But, I mean, look, and even though there's a massive caveat, it's one of the most piss-weak runs to a semi-final in a major I've ever seen. Semi-finalists at a major is fucking legit as well. So, I mean, he's it for me because if you look at where they came from and how they were essentially an academy team themselves, plus Hobbit, I'll give plaudits to Nafani. I know he's a legitimate IGL. Which, again, I don't consider Boomich to be a legitimate IGL because if you're ever a leader in a team and you go, Simple, what do you want to do? Fuck that.
It's like Moses said, if you think about how you set up the discussion about Na'Vi, it's all about like, wow, look at Simple, and then they've got Bait and Electronic and the Superstar lineup and the fragging's impossible and they win every map. Like, it's at the end you go and maybe Boomich does something there. No one goes. They make the most genius. By the way, I'll even give this to Cadian. Many people commented on some amazing mid-round reads that Hero could have, or they'd run the clock down, guess correctly which site you've rotated on, and go to the other side.
Crazy how they used to do it.
This is why, in my opinion, it is Nafani, because I can actually see in the game, like, listen, even if you say it online, the coach was talking, the coach can't be given all this info. Like, some of it has to be from the guy in the server. You can just tell by the way the team moves. And I thought, especially online, Gambit looked fucking incredible as a 5-man unit. They were so tight as a
team. They had Navi's number, mate. For that start of the year. I mean, and even Blade credited them and said, having that rivalry is what made Na'Vi better. It's what helped kick us on and change our style and adapt to the new meta.
I'm willing to bet, even if Na'Vi, just by virtue of the absence, would have been number 1 if Gambit hadn't existed, they wouldn't be as good as they are now. I agree. The real premise of this year, it really was a fucking anime, not just in the sense that Simple got to win, which was like the protagonist. Like, the whole year was Gambit basically being the final boss for Na'Vi, leveling Na'Vi the fuck up, and then Na'Vi won all the lands. Like, actually, they all fucking Gambit like a massive sort of like thanks, basically. They really did, like,
10% of the prize money.
Yeah. Tithing wouldn't be bad. A little bit of tithing.
Yeah. So I'm going Nafani. Duncan, are you on board with that?
Yes.
All right, there we go. We don't even need Sam this time around.
He would have only just said, he'd have just said whatever the opposite.
I would have went with Nafani this time.
Who would you have said?
I would have said Nafani.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I bet you would. When there's no cost to say that, I bet you would agree, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Mate, what do you mean no cost? You're already going to let him die. I mean, what more do you need? Right, okay, now we're getting to the good ones. Do you need another beer or a piss?
Yeah, I was gonna say, can I take a piss break and a fresh drink break? Is that possible?
Yeah. While you're pissing, turn your mic off. And next award is sneakiest cunt of the year. So have that percolating in your brain while you're holding on to your little brain.
Exactly. Which is it? Elise or Fallen?
Sometimes in the heat of the moment, the big head's got to listen to the little head, Richard.
There you go.
So well, I guess we'll start the ball rolling. Keep things moving along. I'm sure you've got lots of ideas for sneakiest cunt of the year.
First things first, let's just honour history and bring out some of the people who are perennial contenders for this award. So one of them, that's one of my favourites. It's Nick and Nyholm. It's Nicola Nyholm from Astralis. Always a contender. Always a contender. Even though I will say he's clever in that now it seems like Casper Hid carries the bag for that and tends to be the person who has to say the things that are strong. But again, I don't believe that guy I don't think that guy knows which hand to get his dick out to have a piss with. Like, I think he has to be told. Like, so in my opinion, anything Astralis related, it just is Nick and Nyholm. Like, it's all his tactics, and he's only done the same thing again. Because here's the craziest thing: I actually think low-key of all the crazy shit they've done in Astralis, this Loki one might actually be the most egregious. As mad as that sounds, even though it's not criminal in any way, there's not even any sort of like unethical thing. I just think, the unethical part is they've lied. I just think the entire thing is a PR scam. I don't even believe genuinely they actually thought in good faith him coming in even he had a shot. I don't think they did. Because think how quickly they abandoned him being the AWP. It's like 2 lands or something.
No, but this is what's great. Because we've done such a good job of chronicling all of Astralis' fuckery. Obviously, I've got my DMs open again because the Corralho has ended. And I have my DMs open again. So, and not just see Vampir's erect penis. And so anyway, somebody messaged me out of the blue. I'm guessing just someone who watches the show. And they literally sent me the official Astralis press release called Meet Lucky and the rest of the team, right? And he's took a screenshot of it in case they edit it and delete it. And it said, including Astralis Orpa Lucky. And the message just said, just in case Astralis try to delete history again by saying Lucky was never meant to be an Orpa.
Right. Yes.
So that's how fucking good. That's, being a fan of this podcast, people start fucking thinking. That's why only the most intelligent fans support our shit. So perfect. But yeah, Nicola Nyholm, I don't think has done anything egregious. Jason's back in time for this one. So for me, I think hands down, Hunden wins it this
Feels
year.
like it. Here's the thing. Because people are going to think, but the cheating was in 2020. No. The part where he manipulated someone with using their
holy
weakness
shit,
as a human, that's one of them. Also, I like the angle where he basically tried to actively set everyone up to fail after he already could gain nothing himself. Just basically ruin a couple of young men's careers for no reason. What else did he do?
There's people in the chat, by the way, saying, Hunden wasn't sneaky. What, you don't consider fucking recording a call and not telling you I'm recording? Well, what do you want? That's fucking espionage. He doesn't get more sneaky than that by definition, you might.
He wasn't sneaky. He only was going to be the coach of Heroic, not attend the first LAN, give access to their anti-strats, to their direct rival, who he was then planning to join.
Strats, bro.
That seems pretty sneaky. I'm
just
saying.
Anti-strats,
I'm just saying that seems pretty sneaky. That seems pretty sneaky. Come on.
Yeah.
If it was any more sneaky, it would be dressed like a fucking woman right now. That was pretty good.
Shit, that's a fucking banger joke.
Not
well
bad.
done.
Not bad. There you go.
Yeah, Sneaky does do that. Well done. I was like, is this just more rampant misogyny from inside?
Holy shit.
Shields? But no, it wasn't. It was actually a straight fire reference.
As soon as he he said it, I had to wait 2 seconds before I laughed to make sure it was okay to laugh.
Exactly. Since I
was like, is my career going to get destroyed if I laugh at this joke? Am I going to be ruined?
He's got a lawyer, in his head. You are permitted to laugh at that joke. It is a reference to the Sneaky, the League of Legends player. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, look, here's what he did essentially. So he did the cheating. got the org to basically create contracts so everyone would enter into a suicide pact if it was ever revealed, right? Called all of his players like fucking crybabies, i.e. the ones that didn't want to go along with it and have him on board the team. That all came out. Then after that, he then tried, because he turned on the team. Why? Because he wanted to leave and get a better job. Who with? Their arch fucking rivals. Spoiler, he then leaked scrap and documents he didn't even have the right to do. They weren't just his work, by the way. To before Heroic and Astralis were likely to meet in a tournament because he wanted a job over there, essentially like a form of corporate espionage, then lied about it, then wanted to bring down the entire fucking team, right? So it took somebody who had mental vulnerabilities and secretly recorded them saying self-incriminating things that he manipulated them into saying, then sent that evidence to the media to make everybody fall down. Like, mate, it doesn't get sneaky. This isn't just sneakiest cunt of the year. This is sneakiest cunt of all time in CSGO.
There's like 5 separate things in there that would win him the award on their own in isolation.
Dude, there's one that Richard even missed, because that's how many there are. How about when after the fact, when this all came out, he then lied and purposely mischaracterized the e-sick message to him as essentially, he made the gist of it, if you dare to appeal this, we will just instantly raise your ban to 5 years from 2. He made it sound like they were like strong-arming him and railroading him. Then when he looked into it, it wasn't like that at all. They essentially just said, if you appeal it, it won't be decided by us.
He also,
I would suggest 5 years as the thing when they asked me for my opinion. It wasn't at all sneaking every angle.
It mischaracterized what the person who did a forensic analysis of the server logs said, and the media just ran with that. You know, that TV2.dk just ran with it without a single critical thought. He's got about 8 strikes in this one passage over the course of the year. It's ridiculous. And like I say, it's why I'm so happy, like, seeing him just there, sadly mixing a cocktail while his fucking manager goes, your bow tie's not straight in the background. And he's like, here's to new beginnings. Fuck you, get the fuck out. Never tweet about this game again. Never fucking have a single fucking thought or opinion. I'm pulling your card. If anyone in Valorant hires you, fuck them. I'll fucking torture them on social media to the ends of the earth, because there have got to be limits on second chances. This would not be a second chance by any definition. This would be like the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. He's the most egregious, cheating piece of shit of all time in CS history, which is really saying something.
Listen, obviously, Hunden's going to win this one, but let's not forget all the candidates, because much like the Oscars, in some ways, being nominated is as important as winning. So another person I don't want to see missed is called Hitcham Chahine, the CEO of NIP. This guy has to be in there. Like, let's start out. By the way, you nail one of the best stories of the year. You've signed Device. It's almost like signing Cristiano Ronaldo. Well, not really, but anyway. So here's what I would say is this. When you announce Device, you instantly also say, got an even bigger thing coming soon. That's already grounds for sneakiest of the year. When you imply there's a bigger and better piece of news than signing Device, the most decorated player in the history of CSGO, and that news turns out to be was sold out to China. Like that can't, no, that's ridiculous. Listen, you're not going to beat Hunden, because Hunden's like, he's like Wilt Chamberlain, you know, you should almost remove him from the record. So we have a discussion, you know, he's got all the records.
In the Hall of Cunts, we're retiring his jersey next year, aren't we? Like, you know,
in any other era, it's like Nico. Hitcham could have won the major this time, but his problem is simple. Hunden exists, the godfather of all cunts. So no, in this scenario, like, I think Hitcham Chahine has to at least be on the menu. And then the whole shit where, I know we've gone over it already, but if people didn't watch the episodes this year, he also played some sort of a role through NIP in sort of fucking with the major back and forth for about a month, basically. I wasn't a big fan of that myself.
Yeah, I mean, for real, Hitcham would be up there. It's like, it's just Hunden's such a ridiculously, like, obvious winner, you know. But yeah, you're right. And I think, you know, let's just be fair. This was a year where NIP was sort of like a beloved kind of organization, very popular with a lot of people. I would say not just Swedish fans, not just people who remember the glory years and all of that, but they're a popular org in general. I think a lot of that good faith has been eaten up, actually. And like, and also it's why I feel sorry for Device, because it's a unique position for him. Because now he's gone from being a beloved pro who wins everything to a despised pro who wins nothing. Like, so, you know, that's a massive culture shock. And a big part of that is obviously NIP and the bullshit positions they've put him in, you know. It's that anonymous stuff would be enough for me because again, what people, you don't know what you're talking behind the scenes. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to Valve. Flashpoint must never be allowed to run, and he was like raging about that when that replay should just never have happened, unprecedented in esports history. So yeah, they had a lot of fuck ups this year. Nicola Nile might not even be top 3 this year, which is staggering. But yeah, Hitcham Shaheen could be a second place contender for me.
You just know, by the way, there was some like cursed monkey paw action where Device was like, you know what? I hope this year I'm not just bloody top 5 in the top 20 of the year. It's like, well, you certainly won't be that, mate. Enjoy. Also, imagine that as well. Imagine if he goes to his family for Christmas and they're like, oh, so how's it going, Nikolai? Like, I understand you changed teams. Like, what did you win this year? IM Fall RMR. Not anything else? Majors or anything? No, just IM Fall RMR. Like, every other year he was just coming in with like wagons of trophies and MVPs and everything. Like, just nothing this year, is there? Yeah. All he won was about 1,000 raged polls just going, kill yourself over that anonymous thing, and then him going, this is in many ways the hardest thing I've ever done.
I know.
I still don't know why he did that.
Video of him like celebrating when he won.
Richard, I think that tweet alone from Device might get him nomination as sneakiest cunt of the year. If you're going to beat someone in a rematch that should never have been sanctioned, a result that should never have been overturned, don't then also turn around and go, in some ways, this is hurting me the most. Like, fucking mate. They're dying on the floor. Don't go, oh, bloody hell, it hurts me just to watch you die. Oh, the emotional torment I'm going through. You Jason, don't even know what torment I'm going through.
Do you have a nomination?
I'm with Hunden. Fuck him. Yeah. We should just rename the award every year. Should be the Hunden Award.
I think we might do that moving forward. See you all in 2022 for the annual Hunden Award, aka formerly known as Sneakiest Cunt. Yeah. Right, here we go. Another good one. Worst roster move of the year.
Ooh, this is an interesting one because there's a lot we could go with here. Let me think. What's the worst?
Was Henny to leaving Furia? Was that 2021 or 2020?
Because I feel like that was early this year, maybe. Because I know at the end of last year,
it was either December or January. I can't remember which one it was.
Let's have a look.
Let's see. According to this, it
says he went inactive at the very beginning of the year. 8th of January, they claim.
Technically, it would count. I'm going to allow this.
That's like one of them. Henny leaving Furia has got to be one of the fucking worst.
That's pretty bad.
That's got to take the cake from fucking Kirby of the worst move of all time, I feel.
I mean, by the way, an obvious one you have to consider, we talked about earlier, is Locky to Astralis. What is that fucking move? The joke is, people are now talking, and they really think this is a good point. They don't get that this shows what a bad situation Astralis put themselves in. You know, people are going, of course, if Device went to Astralis, they'd be a competent... Mate, if the most decorated MVP winner of all time, Simple Sequel or whatever, like, if him joining your team doesn't instantly make you number one, you fuck that team up completely. Like, it's if he has to join to make you a relevant team, what have you done with the guy before? What was he doing there? Like, Locky, I think it's why I always bring up, I think it's so unfair what they've done to him, because if you're a young person like that, you think this is your golden opportunity, it ain't. It ain't, mate. This is the end for you. This is your one chance where you get the biggest spotlight ever shined on you. Like, if people think I'll give you the best example ever because Moses is here. Think about how many years it took Kuster to overcome the stigma of the Team Liquid period. Yep. They're doing that. This is even worse, dude, because Astralis was the greatest team ever. He's replacing the most decorated player ever. Like, holy fuck. That would be like if Kuster had replaced Elige, like, now. Like, think about the shoes you'd have to fill. So I think that's got to be in contention, Locky to Astralis, because there's no upside to it as far as I can tell.
I mean, I'll add Kyojin coming in for Vitality.
That wasn't great either. Yeah.
Especially because of the framing. So for ages in France, people have been waiting, like, oh, when will this backband thing change? Will Valve revise it? Could Kyojin get to, a big team in a major? He's going to be the next ZWoo. He's like a prodigy. Utter fucking dog shit, by the way. And when you consider, as I said, Masuta's the younger of the two. There's this like narrative like Kyojin's like some 16-year-old kid. No, he's been around the block. He came into Vitality. They were instantly worse with that lineup. How you missed players like RPK this year, just that bedrock foundational aspect. Certainly washed up by comparison to his glory years, but just old faithful, reliable. How much they missed him. And then obviously, I get why they rolled the dice on it, but the framing, and then you get to the major, holy shit, was he bad. Like, he was unbelievably bad.
He might win, actually, then, because he was also in the team longer, so I guess it was even more impact, right? In fact, here's the sad thing. When you look at the way their team went, sure, someone will argue if they hadn't have had Kyoji, they wouldn't be making the roster moves. But if you'd have had basically any competent player, including RPK, for that run at the end of the year, dude, they'd probably win most of those events. They might actually straight up have beaten Na'Vi. Like, they were looking amazing. And even when they were looking amazing, you'd look at him and go, how are they even doing this when this guy's like bottom fragging every fucking game? This doesn't even make sense. That's one of the reasons I really think Apex got that massive boost at the end of the year, where everyone was saying it was the IGL of the year. Because look at, he was navigating a team with a guy who effectively was just an empty fucking seat in the server, but he was taking them to finals, and that is epic.
I got one for you, and this might be partially a technicality, but you could say the entire roster saga of EG coming out of the player break, where they hired Daps as a coach, and then right coming out of the break, Stanislav says, I have to take a break. I didn't get enough of a break. I want a little bit longer. He goes on break. Daps has to step in to play for him, and after one event, Breeze says, yes. Oh, my turn for a break. So now, if you're Daps, you just got absolutely bent over and fucked. But like those have got to be.
He's not watching from the cupboard this time.
Just imagine the signal that sends when your in-game leader and your star player both say, "Fuck it, I'm burnt out, I'm done." Those are roster changes that just send the signal.
That was no coincidence, though. In fact, actually, the thing people don't sort of factor into the history about that move is legitimately the move. It was always meant to be Daps was going to end up playing. That was the long-term play for that roster. I've heard that from a number of credible people, that actually Daps was coming back to play. He wasn't just going to be a coach. It was, they were going to manage Stanislaw out, and Daps was going to become the full-time IGL for EG. And then I don't even know what it was that changed that, but he was brought in with a view to play specifically.
So I heard the exact opposite, or I was told the exact opposite.
Sources are wrong,
that he was, well, yeah, it's very possible. But I mean,
would be good for your career, so you know.
But yeah, I think that whole saga, that was one of the most disappointing things I've seen in North American Counterstrike since I've been casting an analyst, was having a team whose in-game leader and star player both quit on the team publicly right before a major, the first major in 2 years. Like, that's mental to me. That's that's mental fragility, and I like both of those players, and you know, I know Stanislaw a lot better, and I respect him a lot as a person, but that whole sequence for EG was just so disappointing.
I've got another one. I can't believe I forgot this. By the way, this actually shows how dark CSGO has been last year. Think how many fucking names we're picking that are on top teams. Here's another one, another top 10 team with a bomb-ass signing. Linus to NIP. First of all, he's worse than ZTR. He didn't fit the team at all. I know everyone's going to go, but he got him into the top 8 of the major. That was the only thing he did. The joke is, if they'd had anyone competent, they would have just qualified before them, wouldn't they? They wouldn't be at the fucking last match. So I think he has to be one, because he's another player like Georgian, where it's like, this is just an empty seat in the server. Like I genuinely can't even find where the hype is for these guys.
I'll say I'm not as hard on the guys that are making the step up from academy. Right, so like Linus and Lucky, they wouldn't really do it for me, even though I don't think they've been great pickups. One that we haven't talked about, which is weird because it's obviously a meme on like Reddit and stuff, is obviously the Acore move to Mouse Sports. That was this year, right? He didn't move out the last.
Yeah. I think that was early this year. Yeah, because he was in Mad Lions.
So I mean, obviously, you know, Matt, you're talking about it was cheap by roster move, you know, standards. In the current climate of CS, but it was still a money move. And Acore was great at Mad Lions, and everyone thought he was going to be like transformative over at Mouse Sports. Fell well short of any sort of expectation we had for him, and I think he's a bit of a fucking meme. Honestly, now he's like, you know, he's really harmed his reputation.
He's lost all of his stock that he had going into Mouse Sports.
Exactly, and also it's not like he's a bad player in a successful team. No, Mouse Sports have just gone. They've just regressed to the point where they're the guaranteed last place at any team, any tournament rather, and they've just lost Robs.
I think the biggest problem with Acore is he fails the eye test on almost every single level. Like when you watch him play, I remember being on a desk at Cologne and having a post-game interview talking to Rops, and he said that like He said that Acor's decision making was some of the best he'd seen, and I remember everyone on the desk just kind of looked at each other like, "What the fuck? Are we watching a different player, a different game?" And don't quote me on that. That might be misquoting, but he basically was just like, "This guy is like great decision making," and I'm like, every time I watch him, I'm just like, "What the fuck is he doing? Like, why this?" And like, yeah, it's just. I don't think he falls into the worst one. I think that was one of those roster changes, because when I look at this award, I'm like, this roster change makes sense. It didn't work out, but at least it makes sense. And in that way, it can never win, right? But I think, like that's why for me, like the Henny one is just like, you are leaving a Team Furia that is one of the best in the world at this moment. You are yourself deciding to leave this team to go play with your brother, and then you spend like 6 months not playing a single official, and the team collapses 2 months after you join. Like that's horrible.
Nothing's going to beat more than $250,000 for snacks to Mouse Sports. Nothing's going to beat that ever in the history.
They did win New York, at least. They got a trophy out of it.
True, they did get a trophy out of it. Fuck all else, of course, except a big bill and a headache. Yeah, I don't know. It's real hard for me. I might stick with Acor for my final decision.
Okay.
I'm going to go. I have a hard one actually deciding on this one. Let me think. Fuck, what do I even go with for this? I still think, listen, I actually still think of all of them, I still think Lucky to Astralis is the worst, because I feel like genuinely, if that was actually a competent Danish player, that team could have done something at the major. Like they actually would have been half decent is the key word.
Yeah. So Henny, so once again, we're going to have to go
Henny's
to Judge Sam.
My man.
We've got Acor,
Come on,
Henny, and Lucky.
Well, the way I look at this like award is the worst decision from the team's point of view.
Yes.
So Henny more wanted to go play with his brother, but
Yes,
Astralis did decide to bring in Lucky to try and replicate the best
motherfucker.
team in the world. So I'm going to have to go with Lucky.
Oh, shit. He's just trying to appease Duncan. This is intimidation.
No. Lucky was in my mind at the start.
He wants to get off that list.
No. It was always Lucky.
There was even another one from Astralis we could have done. It's just a bit more abstract, which is Bobski to the bench. That's a terrible fucking move when you look at the players they had. The guy qualified them to a fucking major with no glaive, and then they would just say, well, you can sit out the rest of the year, mate. What?
They've done him real dirty.
Yo, that tweet they fucking deleted where they were like, "You'll bounce back, miss you, legend," and they're all trying. You're the ones dropping him. You're the ones doing it to him. He doesn't need this talk from you.
He even was top 4 at Cologne when he was playing with them as well. Like that guy, he should have been fucking playing this year. That's a terrible move in itself, isn't it?
Especially if you're going to take the op away from Lucky, why wouldn't you use Bubsky, the guy you brought in to be a rifler? That's the biggest problem with it.
By the way, he's fucking 10 times the rifler Lucky is. I don't care what, what a madness. So, all right, Sam. Judge Sam has decided. We now get into the last 3 awards. I know Jason's like, fucking hell, why do I do these things? They last forever. But
no, I'm good, dog.
All right, good. Glad to hear
Let's rock and roll.
Best roster move of the year.
I've got the winner.
You're going to say Bits and RV.
I was going to say Bit taking the starting spot from Flamey on the roster.
That's what I meant. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not a bad shout, is it, when you consider what they did? It's got to be up there. Let me see.
What else? What other good ones were there this year?
Even any other good ones? There wasn't that many good roster moves, to be fair.
Let me see. Yeah, it was a bit of a weird
this whole year. This whole year was like the waiting of the teams who were obviously imploding through the break, and then like, let's get the major done with, and then we'll go crazy. Yeah. Shit.
Yeah.
What else was there last year?
I mean, Twists joined FaZe, but who gives a fuck?
The problem with this is
they did nothing.
Realistically, it's going to be Bit because we've already had the discussion. That was like one of the best players. Like the only other ones I could think of, the problem is a package was when Heroic brought in those 2 players. Wasn't that early this year? Wasn't it early this year they brought in Shush and
Shush and Shush.
The problem is that's a double deal. The problem is Bit just makes it. We'd have to almost say what's the second best one then.
Well, I mean, you could also we're all feeling Bit to the starting lineup for Navi,
right?
Yeah.
You could also say the Fnatic changes, although I don't think they've had enough body of work to really get them the title. But at least for the first time in years, you probably look at Fnatic and say this looks positive. This looks cool.
Listen, it still blows my mind that they nearly didn't. The Smooya deal nearly didn't happen, and look. Best will in the world, like Chiquinho just wasn't up to the standard. He's just another, also ran in Swedish Counterstrike. I don't think he'll have much of a career after this, sadly. I'm sure he's a good kid and everything, but, that's life. But yeah, I mean, like, there's an argument there, but because Fnatic haven't made it to a big tournament and it came at the end of the year, I don't think you can really give it to them.
That's legit. Just give them an honorable shout out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Similar with Flit, obviously joining Virtus Pro, he looked good, and they look better with him in, which I didn't think was going to happen because Sanji was kind of so instrumental to what they did, but we haven't seen them enough, and they
body of work.
Again, we need that sample size to be up. So yeah, it's sort of like it just is bit, and there's not really anything else to fucking talk about on that one. I don't think it's like
I've been trying to look at all the some of the different teams and what roster changes they've made, and that's the only one I can find that's really anything crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that simple, I guess. Basically, that was the one roster move that they made that, it took them to being the best team in the world. They overthrew someone that was dominant, who was also in their region, that had a stable lineup. They're currently the lineup that's been together the longest, Gambit. So, I mean, everything about the move, it's a risk, and it's a risk that massively paid off. So, just got to be bit for real. So, not a lot to talk about on that one, which is good because biggest disappointment.
Ooh, because the good thing about that one is obviously it's mad open-ended and you can interpret any way you want. You know what? I have to say it. I will just say everything outside of the matches to do with the major.
Yeah.
I think the hiring wasn't done as well as it could have been.
Definitely
I think there was
not.
no fucking shoulder content minus Banks getting a tattoo. There was, I think the way the event was crammed together also fucking ruined some of the vibe. Definitely wore all of us out and burned us the fuck out. We had no travel day. All this drama with the fucking casters. If people don't know, as we were talking about earlier, the first 2 weeks of the major were awesome. Then when we were waiting for the playoffs, we kept saying the whole time, who cares about tech problems? The week of the playoffs will be amazing. Before a match is even played, enormous drama that just tears the whole fucking talent team apart and effectively makes it so it's like just everyone's sort of like just a little tiny bit bombed out the whole week, even though you're putting on a... That's the thing. Everything except the matches, I thought actually was disappointed about the major. This could have been, by the way, if that had been like one of the better majors, it would have been amplified 100-fold by the way the year had gone. It would have been such an amazing moment in Counterstrike,
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll put this one on the table, and I think you've shown incredible restraint not to do it. Obviously, the device move, to nip.
Up there as well. Yeah, for sure.
I think if you think about the fanfare of that announcement, this, highly touted, like €700,000 transfer fee. You've got the player who is routinely discussed as the GOAT going to a new look roster. People wanted immediate success. And it just didn't happen. You then segue into immediate drama, Anonymous, where the perception is Nip kind of had to cheat an underdog team out of a legitimate win just to make the finals of that event. And as you said, played triple elimination. Device really fucked up the PR around that. And then since then, he's had personal problems, but at the end of the day, his stats just haven't been good. His performances haven't been good. And considering what could have happened, there could have been a world where he joins NIP, they level up so much, they have like a really deep run at the major in front of a home crowd, maybe even go to the finals. But instead, they were pretty insipid when it got to the big games. They didn't even really know what their map pool was at the major, and Device's performances were subpar. Not as much as Rez's, of course, but not the player I am used to seeing. So I gotta say, I got sucked up in the hype, as people can know. You can go look back at the content I made at the time over at Desert, or obviously on this podcast. I believed, I was even saying to Duncan, there's a world where they go and win that major. Get prepared for it. In reality, I was just fucking out of my mind. I must have just been blasting DMT or some shit, because that was never likely, and they just didn't even look like a top team. I even said, by the way, going into the major, they're good value for number 2 in the world. Maybe there's some truth to the fact I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about half the time. I don't know, because that was utter bollocks. I don't even know how delusional one person can be. Yeah, for me, I think the Device move's been a bit of a damp squib, all things considered.
My biggest disappointment of the year, I'm just gonna say all the authoritative bodies in Counterstrike as a collective, and the way they've handled the entire coaching bug scandal. I mean, I said it earlier, I said it a number of times also. The fact that there's no punishment whatsoever, not even like a ceremonial punishment. I think ESIC failed us. Probably for better reasons than some of the others. They probably have some legal things they have to stick to. I think CSPPA has been a disappointment for years, and this just kind of sealed the deal for me. I think ESL and Blast for not finding any way, and I guess again maybe because they aren't partner teams, to not being able to punish Heroic in any kind of way or have any punishment for those players involved in it. And I think Valve as well for sending a signal that they were going to be cracking down on things of this nature years and years ago and not being able to do anything. But I think pretty much every single body that we have given power and respect and status to protect the integrity of our game has failed massively this year. Massively.
Yeah, I mean, look, ESIC could be up there for me. As everybody knows, I'm a big proponent of ESIC. I'm of the mindset when it comes to ESIC that it doesn't work like it should, but we have to support it because there won't be another ESIC.
I'm on board with that. I feel the same way as you do, and I think a lot of the times in esports as well, I think we present a very good front that we've got everything figured out, and I think a lot of times the community and the average fan doesn't realize how much of this is kind of like pieced together as we all go. But I know there's going to be some growing pains, but I still expected more. Like, I know there's going to be certain things that ESIC just is not prepared to take on at the moment, the way that I would like them to, or the way that we would like them to, or the way that we need them to. But I think not even addressing the issue in any real way outside of saying it happened. I think from everyone involved.
I mean, they're just like massively understaffed, and obviously, like I talk to the guys. Yeah, I talked to the guys a lot about this over there. I mean, spoiler, I'll be at there. They're doing an event. It just got pushed back to April because of COVID. I'll be like moderating some panels there, and I'll be giving a speech there about how esports is a corrupt cesspit. So that'll be fun. So, I do have ties with the ESIC guys, but I don't speak for them in any official capacity or anything like that. But, at the end of the day, they've strongly intimated things are going to change. We're going to get staff. We're going to work on this stuff. NA stuff's coming down the pipe. I feel like, this North American match fixing, how long have we been waiting for that now?
Ages.
It's like, we're probably 18 months.
Yeah.
Well, no, a little bit shy of that. And it's just not good enough. It's like, because the problem you've got, when you commit to policing a space, if you don't do it in a timely fashion, it's like failing to stop serial killers or some shit like that. There will be other victims, and it completely perverts what the whole scene could be. So ESIC really needed to have their shit together. And unfortunately, this idea of biting off more than you can chew is just ridiculous. I also add the CSPPA, just in general. I wouldn't say it's especially this year. That was something that really disillusioned and jaded me. And unfortunately, speaking out about that disillusionment cost me a personal friendship, obviously, with Scott. And I still stand by my assessment of it. I don't think it's done anything that it sort of promised to do. And by the way, it looks like that is going to be dead in a year or two, because all of the people who founded it have fucked off and have just left a bunch of players kind of holding the bag. So that's that. So I agree. I mean, you can easily sort of lump all that in. Basically, CS infrastructure, you can sort of say.
Also, by the way, if I'm gonna call out, I mean, ESIC and CSPPA and all those orgs for not keeping the integrity, just going hand in hand, all the fucking apparently shady motherfuckers we had playing and competing in our scene who were cheating as coaches or fixing matches. Like, what the fuck is wrong with all of you? Like, just, I don't know.
Money.
That's so disappointing to me.
2020 though.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but like just the sheer amount of people who were involved in these various fucking scandals is just like, are you shitting me? Like, I would have guessed that there would be some people like trying to cheat, trying to game the system, but to have 37 coaches and then to have like whatever it was, 20 people match fixing it, like, I don't know. The whole thing is just disappointing. And yeah, happened in a different year, but I've had, we've all had a beer.
Yep. Right. Last award then. Biggest joke. The biggest
Richard becoming
joke.
A professor and influencing the youth of today.
That is fucking mental, isn't it?
That is fucking ridiculous.
Mate, here's what's mad about that. I'm finishing off my onboarding tonight, and then I will be doing the course. Like, I'll be flying solo. So
Shit.
I'll let you. I'll give you a little bit of insight about that while Duncan's brain cooks up something outrageous to say. He's got that look on his face, hasn't he? I actually, obviously, have been massively like jaded. And listen, I fucking hate. I probably shouldn't even say teachers, and especially what's going on in America with teachers unions and all. But we won't get into that right now. But you know, just in general, I've never met like functional teachers, and I've always said there's like definitely more than a kernel of truth in the idea that those that can do, those that can't teach. Most teachers I've met are like jaded alcoholics or sort of just doing it while they wait to figure out what it is they really want to do. It's kind of like it's not a destination. Let's put it that way for a lot of people, and especially in Britain.
Yeah, and here you are.
Yeah. And basically in Britain as well, we did this thing where it was like people didn't want to become teachers, so the government would give you $6,000 if you would just go get your teaching course, a golden handshake, because we were having a shortage, because no fucker wants, because we all know. But I'll tell you this, because I hate esports so much now, and it is just as I said, it is just a toxic fucking cesspit of corruption and morons, and it's not even fun to work in, and it's got more insufferable, and you know, the scale of the corruption is greater. I actually took more pleasure and I got more joy out of teaching this first semester, which was like 8 weeks, than I probably did in like the last 3 years at esports, for real. Like, it was actually very rewarding, really like broad, loads of people from different backgrounds, all want to learn about different aspects of like esports integrity, and some are doing it because they want to go work at a sports book, and some are doing it because they want to work in the space and fix some of the problems, and kind of seeing that people, you know, in all different ages, it's not just young people, some are like mature students, and seeing that there are people out there that want to get into this industry that I'm desperate to get out of, and you know, they've got good ideas and they're enthusiastic, that gave me a shot in the arm. Actually, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I'm doing it. So just putting that out there.
Good. Yeah.
There's a couple of angles we can go with this. You can do a serious one or a slightly humorous one. If you go serious, like a real candidate for biggest joke of the year, I would actually say specifically the Nip Anonymous handling. That whole scenario was just a fucking joke.
That was a joke.
Almost, they literally zigged every time they should have zagged. It was ridiculous. And the outcome was terrible.
Community reaction as well, because they all maintain that it was the only it was the correct outcome. I mean, like that's what's mad about it.
Yep.
That's what's really mad about it to me. But I'll just add, because it is at the start of the year, obviously, the whole Colossus. That was this year, right?
Oh, yeah. No, that was the end of 2020. That was in the 2020, man.
No, when they announced it, January.
Oh, no, he's right. Flashpoint 2 was in 2020, though. That was their first event.
I think Colossus blew up this year, wasn't it? It was right before I got, fired.
The Colossus came about, I'm going to say, in like October 2020. Really? Yeah, that was when they had the team and they went to Flashpoint 2 and they came last place. Then they had they were done by about, I'm going to say they died in what, like April or something?
Let me. You
mean ending? You mean if you mean the way they ended, that's a joke. Listen, on that, if you want to do that angle, Richard, the idea you just shut the whole project down after spending all that money and let S-Attack go for free, like that's mental. That part maybe could win biggest joke. I thought you meant the project being announced or whatever.
No. Just the whole saga of it over the course of the year, because just think about how ridiculous it is. So first of all, Henry just gets completely wrecked the entire time. Everything he says, something just changes to make it complete non-reality. It's like when you make him. It's like when someone's 14-2 up in a game, Duncan, and you tweet, "No way G2 could lose this," and then they lose 16-14 from a ridiculous. The way you warp reality with your fucking tweets. But just think about the ups and downs of it. We've got a Woxic, and then it was the start of this year they cut Woxic, so I'm looking at it now. And then they bring in Zeppa, it's not quite a good fit. Then they're like, oh, we're bringing in Elmer Putty to be an analyst and Mix, so now we've got all the pieces. That was January this year. They did all of these moves to sort of give Henry the pieces he needs. They pulled the plug on it all by fucking April. Gone. Just gone, and said, yeah, there's just no conceivable way we can stay in fucking CSGO. There's no money in it. What, you didn't know that in January? You didn't know that? Come on, what the fuck's going on? So that whole thing was absolutely ridiculous.
Also, not just the money they spent on the team, but the money they spent on Flashpoint as well. You'd think if you're going to be a founding member of a Counterstrike league that you'd keep your team alive long enough to keep competing in it. with all those joints.
Sorry.
I got one.
Juggernaut was complexity, right? I'm talking about Cloud9.
Juggernaut
That was
complexity.
Yeah. People are saying
yeah.
you mean Juggernaut. I don't. I mean.
No. Juggernaut was complexity. It was Colossus was the joke about Cloud9, wasn't
exactly.
it?
Yeah.
I got one for you. It's a late entry for the year. A late entry for the segment.
Come on.
Duncan's I am esports tweet. Because when he put that tweet out, all I imagine in my head is the amount of times I've seen him in a fucking green room throw a fucking Palpatine accent on and say, I am the Senate, and just make it into any joke in the world.
Moses.
And I was just looking at that tweet. I was like, the beauty of this tweet is going to be lost on 99.9999. And ironically, not only is it lost, but it has also backfired massively because he's tweeted an in-joke onto the internet and he's now ruined.
Yeah.
The sad thing about that, if you go and look at the timestamps, when I made that whole thread, I'm almost certain there's like a gap between all the other tweets that are in like a row, and then that one's just like half an hour later. Because no joke, I was laughing my ass off when I did that tweet. I was high as fuck, laughing so hard. That's why, by the way, I actually know one thing I'm genuinely glad about that whole experience is that it outed all the people who were just totally disingenuous in esports. Because if you're telling me, for example, that DJ Wheat thinks that was a genuine, totally like serious comment. Mate, these people know me. They're full of shit. They're only doing that because they actually have just gone against me completely. Because here's the maddest thing about that. You know the weirdest angle of everyone's response to that is in what sense did that tweet imply I'm the only one that is esports? I never got that interpretation at all, mate. My premise went like this. It's like imagine someone comes into the room right now, Moses, right, who's never been in North American Counterstrike, and they come in and they go, I don't know if we should really let this Moses guy be in North American Counterstrike. And you went, what are you on about? I am North American Counter-Strike because you've been there your whole career. You are the fabric of North American Counter-Strike. I never said, by the way, this is another thing they did. I never said I'm the only one who built esports. I never said that at all.
No.
What I said, by the way, and this is what's mad, this is why it's actually the others that are full of shit. I implied I am an essential part of the fabric of esports, that I am esports. Notice I never said, but no one else is.
No. For me, you see, I didn't even...
The reason they disputed...
Get the prequel meme.
No,
he was doing the Fauci thing.
This is why it goes one level further, though. Because you notice, this is how you know none of these people did it in good faith. They didn't just go, look, he did do a lot for esports, but he isn't. No, they just went, what are you on about? He isn't even esports. He's not prolific. He's done nothing. Did you see my favourite ones, Moses, were people coming in, for real, who if you check their Twitter account, they've never tweeted about CSGO ever. And they were going, this is bullshit. I'm a massive CSGO fan, and I've never even heard of this guy. Brother, I did half the world championships in the game. One of them just broke the record. I'm going to go ahead and guess you aren't a CSGO fan. That's just a weird hint on that one. Like, mate, people were just gaslighting so hard on that whole thing. Come on.
Yeah, I thought it was amazing. I started dying when I saw it.
Literally, right? So it took me a while. Like, Duncan had to explicitly explain, no, I'm just doing a prequel meme, you daft cunt. Because I was like,
I will say,
I am the science. So that's what I thought you was going for.
As a general rule, I don't explain jokes like that. Because, in fact, the whole premise of a funny joke like that is if you don't get it, then you're part of the joke, mate. Like, I'm not going to fucking give you the freebie.
Yeah, no.
I
will also say, I think I did say to Sam, have you seen Duncan's last tweet or something? Just, I am esports. I creased for a variety of reasons. I just thought that whole thing was like, because it's like you say, it was the green room brought to life.
Yes,
Twitter,
it's just like
I am esports.
We have done the Palpatine joke over everything for the past 6 years. We've turned it into everything.
It's like also as well, like you know when Sting in the end of David Lynch's Dune is having that fight. I will kill him. He's like jumping around. I am esports. Oh man, I had so much going on in my brain. It was ridiculous.
And also, do you want to know the ultimate irony of that statement? You know, everyone tried to meme me, Richard, by going, oh, let's edit all these Avengers Endgame clips. You dumb motherfuckers. My actual I am esports quote did do an Iron Man, you dumb fuck. It went through the entire gaming space beyond esports. It was trending on Twitter for about 3 years. It literally was.
Twitter,
basically, me saying I am esports was him saying I am Iron Man in terms of the impact it had on the whole universe. And the joke of it all is this. Everyone in the whole gaming space, even miles outside the normal purview of esports, had to tell me explicitly, directly, that I'm not esports, which, by the way, implies I'm incredibly relevant. Think it through, you dumb fucks. If a random guy goes, no one would even reply to the tweet, would it? No one would even reply. It wouldn't get retweeted. It wouldn't be a big deal, would it? Suck my nuts. My esports. No.
Oh, I miss you motherfuckers so much. Oh, fuck me.
Right, there you go then, fuck it. Sucking Duncan's nuts seems to be a good place to end the show, doesn't it? Like, I feel like I've been doing that for most of 2021, actually, as it happens as a host on this podcast. But Jason, since as you are the guest, it is only fair I give the final word for you. How was your 2021? Any final words, final thoughts?
It was a rough year. Let's not take it to this place. It was a rough year personally, not so much personally, but professionally for me. It was a weird year. Transitional year, it feels, but it's good to be behind me and going in the right places. So, I mean, really all there is to say is I've missed you guys. The major was an incredible reunion. That first week, the group stage was everything I'd been looking for in a CS event for the years we were missing them. I hope we get to do it soon. I don't know how, I don't know when. I have Christmas gifts for both of you that I think I'll probably have to mail out when I'm in Europe at the end of January. So
I'll just read out my address on the show. Here it is.
Yeah. If you could give me that real quick, both of you.
Brazilian fans. No, I'm kidding. I mean, look, man, the major was, like I say, it was like a gift I didn't think I was going to get because obviously I'm like moving on and not doing broadcasts, although, I might, even though I always say I'm not going to do another one, there's always a chance I might do another one. Obviously, always good to hear from you, Jason. I'm glad you're back on a broadcast, that coaching thing. Just a bit silly, really, when you think about it. Glad
wasn't great, was it? Not my best body of work.
Nah, but fuck it. Like I said to you when we did that interview, it's not really a failure. You got to just try new shit, especially can't just maintain the status quo the whole time. Obviously, it's been great working with you, Duncan, over 2021. I'm sure it'll continue in 2022, perhaps in a greater capacity. Watch this space. And Sam, thanks for being the judge of this episode and, of course, being a part-time producer.
No worries. Cheers for the money in that. Nice one.
Yeah. I just raised my hand as if I had something to say. I do have something to say.
What's that?
Just because you did like a PGL-esque little teaser there at the end of the show. Does anyone know what PGL's doing this year? Didn't they have like a PGL CSGO 2022 thing at the end of the major?
Duncan, probably.
Does anyone? I want to know what's happening.
The only thing I can tell you, based on the information I learned this year from both parties publicly, is Anders won't be working with them. That's straight fire. Just leave it at that. There you go.
Right. That was by the numbers. I didn't do a sponsor read because I'm terrible. Start the show. I was just so happy to see Moses. So, obviously our VPN sponsor is NordVPN. Go to nordvpn.com/RLS. Get 74% off the VPN. You use the VPN. They don't store your data. You can, look at Amazon Prime in a different region. So you can get Yellowstone Season 3 because you can't get that in the UK. And obviously as well, if you want to get Steel Series gear, they're still sponsoring us, and you get 10% off anything in the store, including anything from their new Prime range, which is all 6 stuff. That's what I use personally. So obviously go to the Steel Series site, use the referral code Richard Lewis. You get 10% off. There's a direct link in the chat. And of course, shout out to our patrons who have supported us over the course of the year. Our $100 patrons, our friend Benakagi, Carv, Cathal, J-Dubs, Jerky's Minion, Kurza Edits, Marcus Kjumpar, Michael, Tobias Bernasconi, Will the Weed Wrangler, and our $50 patrons, Adam Ox, Alex C, A. Rammer, Bacon, Canapacito, Chronic Alcoholic, shout out to Moses there, CMAC 1991, Dancer Master, Echo, Fursock, Gurhan Kaya, John P, Judas, Miss Alcoholic.
Shout out to Richard.
Shout out to Moses' missus there. No. Nolan, Otarian, Reykjavik on Steam, Sad Sawar, Shine, The Bear, Bitcoin Cash Podcast, Tim Frost, Lonnie, Watchdog, Zumba, Zarathenia. That was by the numbers for 2021.
Wait, what happened to what was it? Cunt Blaster 69? He used to be $100 Patreon. Where'd he go?
420.
Butt Pounder 420. Whatever. Same thing. Where'd he go?
We changed his name to BP 420 because we weren't sure how Twitch would feel about us having someone called Butt Pounder 420.
Weird. The best name wasn't even that. It was the best one was Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer. That was way better.
a patron called Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer. And that only happened because we had somebody called Butt Pounder. So I was like, listen, guys, can everyone just stop fucking ass?
That was good.
Also, can one of you with the Blunt Smoking Anus Destroyer message me? I will gift you a sub for a year because that's phenomenal. I actually used to love watching Richard read that name off every episode.
Yeah, Sam used to love it too. Can we timestamp patrons? But like, yeah, it was ridiculous. Anyway, that was by the numbers for 2021. I'm sure we'll see you in 2022. Let's hope this year was better than the last. So yeah, take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.